Ladies and gentlemen, Diamond Podcasting Productions presents The Shoot, a pro wrestling podcast, with your hosts, Dan Burke and Drew McKenzie.
For a number of years, the day after WrestleMania almost felt like a funeral. It was almost like post-mortem. A lot of people were upset. A lot of people were questioning their future. Last year, there were some people that felt the same way about certain things and certain events that took place. Today, though, it feels different. And me and Mac today are going to put you in that headspace and that journey with us as we review WrestleMania 40 here on The Shoot, part of Diamond Podcast Productions. I am your host, Daniel Burke. Mac, how are you feeling today?
I don't know if you can hear that. I might have to play it a little bit louder. Hold on, because I think it's just so apropos. A bunch of beer cans and bottles rolled around. No, I'm good. I will say that it was after night one. I don't know how much you went on social media this weekend. After night one, a lot of people were not fully impressed. I think part of that is the undercard, which we'll talk about for night one.
Yes. Whereas
night two really had that full WrestleMania vibe, excuse me. And even some of the matches that we talked about last show, in the collaboration episode with Pro Wrestling World Talks with John, I was surprised by even some of those matches too. It's funny, one of my friends, Mike from high school, actually reached out to me today saying he should have put money on WrestleMania. And it's funny because I said pretty much, yeah, if I put money on it, I think I only would have lost on two matches.
Yeah.
And I think those are the matches that we talked about last week. All in all, though, last night, I found it very difficult to sleep afterwards. And it was not for the reason that I just played the audio from. No. It's just, it was a lot of emotions, a lot of excitement, and then try to do some other work on other things too, on this other project, which we'll have to talk about at some point, but that's for another show, for another time. But all in all, yeah, this was huge. We've been waiting for this for months. A lot of different stories kind of coming through fruition. A lot of stories that you can tell are probably not going to be completely over. One being from last night, so we'll get there when we get there. But I thought that even if you exclude night one for a second or kind of take it at face value, I thought this was a great Mania. I really did.
Yes.
Is it like top 10? Maybe not. But all in all, I still thought it was great.
You can make an argument.
You could. You absolutely could. I think it's hard because, you know, we've been talking about WrestleMania for like 2 months. But it's hard to kind of sit there and say that. But I think it could at the very least be in the conversation. I agree with that.
Some people reached out to me this morning and they were very like, oh, this is an all-timer. And, you know, it's very hard to argue. At least for the last decade and a half, you can make the argument that this is probably the best WrestleMania since quite a long time.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might as well not put a number to it, yeah.
Maybe 28. I think was the last really solid good one where there was very little holes. This one kind of reminded me of that. But I think we would be talking differently had things not gone the way that they did.
Well, I mean, of course, I don't want to talk about just the main event, just real quick. Like, we can definitely get there, but
yeah,
like just night 2 in general, like I said before, had a big time WrestleMania feel versus what night 1 provided. And that's not to take away from night 1, but there were some definite highlights from night 1. But I think just night 2 not only blew night 1 away, but blew a lot of people away in general.
Yes. Safe to say. And it's just really refreshing being able to, at least in my mind, be able to sit with and have conversation with people and talk with you about it and talk with other mutual friends of ours. And everybody's in a good mood. Everybody is kind of like, yeah, we're all happy with it. Even like the dejectors. And there's been a lot of them in recent years with when it comes to World Wrestling Entertainment and the concept of WrestleMania. It was really bastardized for a very long time. There were a lot of things that they needed to rely. There were some people in charge that relied on people way past than they should have. The argument that a mutual friend of ours, Mark, and I always talked about, if WWE did not have Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker during like the second half of the 2000s, so maybe like from 2004 to like 2010, they did not have those guys at WrestleMania. There would be a lot of WrestleManias that would be put to the wayside and forgettable and not giving you those really spectacular WrestleMania moments that you expected. Those guys carried that event for so long. And considering the fact, too, that they all got their start when WrestleMania was still in their single digits. And here they are at WrestleMania 25, WrestleMania 26, headlining the event, and also giving probably the best matches in the company's very much history of that event. But after last night and after this weekend, I think we can all say that professional wrestling, because that's the word that Michael Cole used to end it, professional wrestling is back on the pop culture forefront. And it is a cool concept again. I don't think it's something that people are in any ways going to scoff at. Because the fact is that there's a lot of entertainment out there that is stuck in a rock and a hard place and can't get out of its own way. Disney. Excuse me.
Wow, taking that shot early in the show, I guess.
Just saying. But there are some corporate entities, there are some entertainment entities, even some sports leagues that are dealing with challenging times as far as being able to attract new fans and also supplying content that people are willing to watch and pay for. WWE was able this past weekend to bring in over 140,000 fans into Philadelphia. And I'm sure Meltzer will be like, well, actually, it was more 65. Shut up, Meltzer. The fact that a good portion of social media seemed to be tuned in this past weekend, when WWE, of course, was also having to compete once again with the men's and women's NCAA Final Four. And the national championship game for the men's is actually tonight, which is going to coincide with Raw, of course, the Raw after Mania, which before 10, 15 years ago was considered one of the highlights of the year, but especially after last year's. But that was also when Redacted had decided to stick his ugly hand in there and just start tearing up scripts at 7 o'clock and
showed too, by the way,
throwing everything into a tailspin. That will not be happening tonight. That will not be happening tonight. That did not happen this past weekend either. And we, of course, will talk more about that. We'll bring that up more on the main event side of things. So why don't we just go right to it? We're going to go through kind of like match by match here. We'll start with night 1, of course. Triple H opened the show, giving, of course, the Welcome to WrestleMania. And the first big matchup of the weekend that I think that one that myself, Mac, and I, and others had really been talking about heavily, Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. And I have to admit, kind of underwhelmed with it. Not the matchup that I thought it was going to be. I thought it should have opened, or Gunther and Sami Zayn should have opened. One of those two matches I felt like should have opened the show. But Becky and Rhea, I felt like was a fine choice to open it. I just felt like that it was a little underwhelming for my taste. I don't know if it was chemistry on both ends. I don't know if Becky was coming in. Becky, of course, they were talking about how Becky was coming into this with a case of strep throat. Her fever had reached like at high at some points during the week at 102 degrees. She also was on book signing duty that week as well. She was a busy person as far as social media is concerned, but so was Rhea Ripley. Both of them were doing the media rounds and such last week. Of course, they had the run-in on Ariel Helwani's MMA podcast, MMA Hour podcast, which really did not that wasn't the highlight of that show for that last week, however. Kind of got lost in the shuffle. That got overtaken by some other things. More on that on Thursday. But Rhea Ripley retains after about 15 minutes. I was not... Again, I just felt like something was missing from this. Mac, what do you think?
No, I was in the same boat. I thought it was a good match for what it was, but I thought it ultimately could have been better when you talk about two of the top women talent, whether it be just on Raw or on the entire roster. And I wasn't utterly disappointed, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, I felt it could have been better. And that's not a knock. They're still the top talent on Raw. They're still one of the top two talents, in my opinion, in the whole roster, especially Rhea. But I don't know. Does Becky retire? Does she, I think this is what we kind of discussed last week. There's kind of two opinions. One is, okay, what do you do with Rhea now? Because kind of running out of opponents unless you do a draft, which rumor is that's coming. Or you swap the belts, somehow make sense of it in a story-wise and send her to SmackDown. I think that for other reasons, which we'll get through as we go through the card, Judgment Day might be done, so that kind of might make sense. So, there's this whole aspect of, Becky is not getting younger. She's kind of discussed retirement at random points, or it's been rumored at certain points, whichever you want to call it. So I don't know if that's indicative of we're not going to see her anymore. I don't know if that's indicative of, we will till, next year. It depends. And a contract is coming up. So it's one of those situations where it's like, again, was the match okay? Yeah. Wasn't earth shattering. It was a little bit less than what I would have expected. But the outcome for me was something that I don't know. We talked about this last week. I picked most of the card, as did you and John, and this is just one that I knew the outcome already. They're not going to take that belt off of Rhea at WrestleMania. Not after the year she's had, which, some can say it's been a somewhat underwhelming title reign, but, if you look at it holistically, it hasn't been. It's just, you never felt like she was threatened. I know you've said that in the past as well. So it's tough, but all in all, I think this was a good match for what it was. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really enjoy it too much either.
I had high hopes. I really had high hopes.
As did I.
This match was going to be a lot kind of more hard hitting and a lot more of an affair of what I expected, because you're talking about two talents that are two of the better professional women, or two of the better professional wrestlers in the world, not just women. But I was expecting something a little bit more along the lines of what we got from Charlotte and Rhea last year. It's just, there was just something missing. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because of Becky's fever and how she was coming in. But I just thought the match was serviceable, but it wasn't like the barn burner that I expected it to be.
I agree.
If I had to go with kind of like the most disappointing match of the weekend, this probably would be it. Just because the fact that I had such high hopes for it, and it just wasn't what I expected it to be. I feel like almost every other match on the card either went beyond my expectations or they just stayed the same. This one was significantly below my expectations. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying that I expected coming into this was going to be an all-time classic. And it was again serviceable, which doesn't,
I'm not going to disagree. If we look at the card on paper, there were one or two matches that I think would have been more disappointing, but they weren't.
No.
And I hate to say it about a Rhea Ripley match or a Becky Lynch match or combination thereof, obviously, in the scenario, but I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think that if we're looking at weakest match, it is this one. And whether that's, as you said, Becky was sick with strep. She did have a 102 fever at random points during the week. That had been reported during the commentary of the match. So, we don't know if that played a role. I think there were points that you mentioned, the chemistry. That did show once or twice, I thought, where it was like Becky kind of like did a stutter step real quick to almost like, whether it was to check on Rhea or make sure Rhea was ready, I don't know. But I did pick up on that too a couple times where she was going into the corner. And it's like she did this like stutter, and I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I agree. It's, I don't know.
I don't know whether it was chemistry or it was the health effects of Becky.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you ask either of them two, they would probably tell you that they were disappointed in the match. It's just the sense that I got, because it just, am I going to give it like a failing grade? No, I'd give it like a 3 out of 5, but I wouldn't give it like, I expected this to be 4.5, 5-star, like close.
Yeah.
I expected this to be as good as Charlotte and Rhea last year, and it wasn't. And if that's the worst thing that happened this weekend, where it was like right off the bat where I was kind of like, I would consider that a win, just because of the fact that this could have been one of those things where it started out bad and it just didn't get better. But just things, and I'm not saying that this is a bad match. I'm just saying that you go into this with your expectations here. They don't meet the expectations. They're a little bit below it, if not significantly below it. And then you just start thinking to yourself, this is how the rest of the show is going to be? Which is why sometimes when you have a match that kind of underwhelms as your opener, it can kind of set like a pace for the show of like, all right, it's going to take us a bit to get them back, because I felt like that the crowd night one was significantly down from night two. And I'm trying to figure out if they got taken out of it during this matchup, whether it was the cold or if it was they were just saving their energy for the main event. Of course, because when you have the main event, which is overshadowing everything, because you have such a massive name attached to the main event, such a mainstream star, such a virtual movie star, literal movie star in the main event.
Yep.
He casts a giant shadow on the rest of the card. So maybe that was because of it, and that's why people kind of just like simmered down, and it wasn't as loud as I figured it would be. But you can also attest that maybe they got taken out of it from this match. I don't know. I might have to go rewatch it and kind of
I don't
figure it out.
I really do think it's the cold because
Yeah.
I think for a lot of these matches, it didn't really seem like a lively crowd.
Yeah.
And is that because the crowd doesn't care, or is that because they have maybe higher expectations, at least for this match, kind of like you're alluding to? I think that's entirely possible, but I think if you listen from night 1 to night 2, there is a significant difference. So is it just the list of matches? Is it maybe a question of they don't care about some of these matches versus, the match between AJ Styles and LA Knight, which for all intents and purposes was a really good match, all things considered.
Yes, it was. We'll talk about that more.
Correct.
But
we'll get to that one later, but I'm just throwing that as an example.
No, I agree.
You know.
I this match, it just, even from like the entrance on, because whoever did the live performance of Rhea Ripley, I was just like, well, that just took me out of it.
I'm not going to lie, same. I hated that rendition. I hated it.
It was so
I know
bad.
part of it is she likes that band, I guess. That
I get it, which that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get that. I respect that. But I just,
but overall, yeah,
it did not translate live. Did not translate on the. It did not translate on Peacock. So it's like, all right. Then so we go from in kind of an underwhelming championship match, an underwhelming opener, to a Crash TV, multiple person tag team match with a ladder involved. I was sitting with John and I were. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I want to start just by saying, like, I separated this, so I'm gonna have the initial winners of the SmackDown titles first, and then we'll talk about the final winners of the match.
Okay.
Just to clarify. Go ahead. You were talking to John though about this match. I think you're muted, by the way.
I watched this match together.
Okay.
We actually watched like the whole show together, like both nights, because he was just like, "You want to open a Zoom chat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Because in my older age, I've become more of a hermit, and I had invites to go to like places to go watch a show with some friends, and I just wasn't feeling it. But sitting with John and talking about like it throughout the night, we were able to kind of surmise that this match. What?
My phone just went off, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Go ahead. Sorry.
I was able to surmise that this match was kind of like every ladder match with like tag teams in it for the last 10 to 15 years. It was the same spots. And some of these teams have been involved in those matches. New Day, a few others that have just been, they're used to this. They've been involved in this before. Nothing really surprised me out of this. I did like the fact that this match did make Dave Meltzer look like a complete idiot, because he was saying that Austin Theory and Grayson Waller might not have even been still in the matchup even going into last week. He was just like, well, they might not even be on the card. And they end up winning the SmackDown side of the tag team titles, as you can see clearly on the graphic. So it made Dave Meltzer look like a complete buffoon, which I found hilarious to me. And I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Grayson Waller has kind of grown on me in recent months. He's kind of a funny guy. Kind of, meaning I'm using those words lightly. And he's good at just being kind of a dick. So, because I think he is a dick.
Yeah.
So it works. So, but I think so I don't hate this. Austin Theory is someone that it's still going to take me a while to kind of get behind this guy. Because to me, he just looks like, if you put him against like Johnny Gargano, I'd be like, which one is who again? He just looks like every other He just looks like every other indie guy sometimes. It's just like with the beard, look, everything. It's just, he looks like 300 other people in the wrestling industry that are talent. And it's just, and he doesn't do anything also that separates himself from those 300 other people. So it's just like, can I look at the other 299 to see if they're stars and bigger stars than he is? But in the end, I don't hate this decision to make these guys the tag team champions of SmackDown. They're heat machines. They're going to get a lot of cheap heat, and them holding the tag team titles and them separating the tag titles too is a huge move. Because now it's like you have, again, something for tag teams on each brand to fight for instead of just one tag team champion kind of ruling both brands, because then you have only one team from two brands getting a shot every month at a pay-per-view or a PLE, where now you have one tag team from each brand getting a shot every month at a championship. So I feel like that this I'm okay with A-Town Down Under as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And then the Raw side, Judgment Day did not retain, but Judgment Day had a very good weekend regardless. That, of course, went to Awesome Truth. So R-Truth finally has a WrestleMania moment, which awesome for him. And I hate to use that word to kind of describe it.
I was waiting for that comment.
It's just, I hate using it. But at the same time,
you have to.
And The Miz, too, he's built up an interesting resume because he's won the title, like he's won the IC belt, I think. I forget if he had the U.S. Championship ever at WrestleMania, because I feel like that he's had moments where he's won like championships, each championship at Mania. I don't know if that's a thing, but I feel like he's either won a championship or retained it, because, of course, he retained the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 27. I think he won the tag team titles last night, and then he may have won the IC or US title at some point in there as well. But he's building an interesting kind of case for him of just like another accolade kind of thing to put on the board. But it's just, I think, a moment for truth to kind of get, because it's almost like the fact that he's never really had a WrestleMania win before is just like, what? But he's been around for so long. But it kind of makes sense, because he's mostly been a background like comedy character instead of just like a serious competitor. But when you put him in things like the angle with Judgment Day was absolutely hilarious.
It was, absolutely.
And some of the best like comedy work that they have done in a very long time. And I felt like that giving him kind of like a consolation prize with The Miz and winning it, I don't have an issue with that at all. I think both winners are respectable. Yeah, you're going to hate the fact that A-Town Down is the tag team champions of SmackDown, but everybody could look at it and say, well, at least R-Truth is tag team champion. So I think it's like, you give and a take situation.
Dude, and you got the hot tag again. Come on.
Exactly.
You got a hot tag again.
I was saying that. I'm like, is this a tornado match? Did somebody tell him that it's a tornado match?
I mean, nobody told him about the Rumble match, so kind of matches up. I do want to touch on one thing that you said about splitting the titles, which I had been calling that since day one when they announced this.
Oh yeah.
Because it just made sense. But it also gives them a chance to refresh the titles a little bit. So I don't know if you've heard about this, but they're thinking about doing kind of the same thing they did in the past and that they've done with the Raw and SmackDown titles currently, and probably, granted I don't know this verbatim, but it seems like they'll probably go back to the World Tag Team Champions and the WWE Tag Champions instead of Raw and SmackDown.
That to me, I think, seems to be the most logical thing to do nowadays. Just because then you can switch brands without having it to be like, well, because they put themselves in that predicament years ago when it was like, well, she won the SmackDown title, but she's not on SmackDown. Well, so you don't want to You don't want to go that situation anymore. Like, you want to be able now to kind of have a brandless championship instead of just staking your claim that, you know, you're the smack. And plus, it just screws up so much lineage and shit. Like, because there's no guarantee that Netflix was, if you're paying it that much. They might, of course, they're buying Raw. But let's say that they do feel like they want to kind of freshen up the paint a little bit and do a little bit of changing. Even though I don't expect them to, because Raw's a name brand, SmackDown's a name brand. But you never know. And I feel like that if you wanted to change it, imagine if it went back to like Raw is War, though, and let Netflix. That would be sick.
I don't think it's ever going to get to that point, but we can talk about that probably a little bit after when we talk about just the era in general.
Yes.
Because I think both nights, particularly the main events, had the
implications.
No, I don't want to say that. You're right, though. But a very Attitude Era feel to it.
Yes.
It has for the past couple of weeks on the TV shows, but it's something that I think we can hold the conversation till later until we get through these matches.
Yeah, I think, but I thought the ladder match was good. But again, I feel like, every 10, 15 years, it's every match that I've seen, like with ladders. Same spots, same type of thing. It's not saying it's tired trope, because, you know, sometimes you're going to have it in there to just be like, okay. But, and the right teams won. So I really can't hate on it too bad. And I feel like this kind of like met my expectations.
Yeah, it did. Because for me, right, especially when we talk about the expectations, a heel team won and a face team won. You really can't make it better than that if you think about it. Yeah, you could have two face teams win. Yeah, you could have two heel teams win. But then it's you're booking yourself into a corner. And I think splitting it this way, where Awesome Truth can still continue a feud with Judgment Day if they decide to go that route, and pretty much everybody can feud with Theory and Waller.
Yes.
So I think this was the right decision. I you know, Awesome Truth got their moment, like you said. Theory and Waller, you know, I wasn't big on them. I'm still really not, but they needed a heel team to win, so if it's not Judgment Day, it really should be them.
Damage Control could feud with A-Town Down Under, and I'd completely understand.
I mean, at that point, I think fucking Damage Control should win, but that's besides the
Yes,
point.
I know. Oscar Lock on Grayson! Yeah!
Yeah!
Cheering it.
Well.
Yeah. I don't think we need to comment more on this.
I think we're good for that one. I agree.
Our next one. I may have misplaced the placement. Forgive me.
I have LWO versus LDF.
Yes. This one had a run-in from a Philadelphia celebrity.
So
Gotta love that.
hold on, actually. Let's talk about this a little bit differently. Because when we talked on Thursday with John,
yes.
I have that graphic still.
Dragon Lee.
Yeah, so we were supposed to have Dragon Lee on Friday. They attacked him in the back, so I'm actually going to stop.
It was
playing.
Carlito attacked him. Let's just say that now.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I got the
fucking
vibe,
Carlito.
too. I got the vibe, too. I did. Because he came into the back and he's just like, oh.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, by the way, Rey Mysterio is a terrible friend. Because...
Oh, his friends get attacked.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also the fact, too, that instead of going to Carlito and saying, why don't you join up with me, which is the logical decision on why this keeps happening, because Carlito wants to tag team up with him, he keeps going. He went to Dragon Lee, and he went to fucking Andrade. Andrade, who he's feuded with before. He's just like, yeah, I know you just came back, and we've had our problems in the past, but I want you to team with me at WrestleMania. He's just like, yeah, sounds good. I'll be there. It's like, you got Carlito just standing there like, what the fuck? What am I? Like, terrible friend.
Yeah.
I understand now why Dominic turned on his dad. because of shit like this. It's stuff like that. He's just not listening. He's not paying attention. Dominic went to him like 9,000 times, probably about something, and his dad was just talking about something else, and that's why he's just like, "Well, fuck this. I'm joining Judgment Day. I don't need this shit."
It's yeah. I mean, it's funny how that transitioned, and I don't know. I kind of hated it. Not so much the match. I thought the match was exactly what it should have been.
Met my expectations.
Except for the Kelsey run-in.
Yes.
I did not care for that, sorry.
At least it wasn't Travis. Come on.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It was the good Kelsey. It was the one everybody likes. Except during Super Bowl 52. He could have go fuck himself. Yeah, but that's besides the point.
But it's not. But it's not. But, you know, having the run-ins from LDF and LWO who are already at ringside, with Elektra Lopez and Zelina Vega as well, I thought was good. I think Dragon Lee should have come out for something, whether it's a run-in or just to be there with his arm in a sling or on crutches, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. Because let's be real, I think, and I'm just going to say my personal opinion here, you can take it as such, I think WWE screwed Dragon Lee on this. I get it. Andrade is a known talent. He's been part of the company in the past. However, this match should have gone to Dragon Lee. Everybody knew, for those that are, you know, versed in finding these things online, or those that do the actual interviews or dig up the leaks, knew that there was going to be a program with Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee.
Yep.
And whether that was a Mania program or just something in general, that part was not known. So then when they announced that it was going to be Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio versus Santos Escobar and Dirty Dom, I was happy for him. Yes. Dragon Lee is a phenomenal talent. And yes, he really could have shined against both, and he has in the past. Whether it be losses or wins, he has already fought both of them. They have been good matches. Doing that with Rey Mysterio against the two of them, he really could have put on a virtual clinic, if you think about it. I'm not mad they gave Andrade a spot at WrestleMania. I just felt it shouldn't have been at the expense of Dragon Lee.
Well, I understand where you're coming from with the Dragon Lee situation, but I also understand why they did it with Andrade.
Listen, I'm not saying I don't understand. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I understand completely. No, I understand. I don't like it either, because I think Dragon Lee is a phenomenal talent, and Dragon Lee has been there grinding for that company for over a year. When he signed there, he's gotten himself over, and the people really like Dragon Lee. However, when you're getting Andrade, you're pushing him to the forefront, and you're also trying to recruit others from other companies. You're going to want to showcase and say, hey, Andrade just came back, but we just booked him in WrestleMania. So if you come work for us, that probably is going to happen for you too. You know, if certain people who the contract situation may be a little murky and we still don't know what the confirmation is, if they're going to show up on Raw. MJF, yeah, MJF.
Yeah, trust me.
You know, so
if anybody didn't pick up that, I don't know what to say. I picked that up immediately. So you just said contract.
The contract situations are murky. So you want to be able to tell people, hey, you come work for us, we'll take care of you. Little surprised here, though, that they didn't do the turn with Carlito costing Mysterio the matchup. Mysterio winning back-to-back years, because he won last year against Dominic.
He did.
And then he won this year against Santos Escobar and Dominic. Little surprised here, just because of the fact that Ray is kind of in a position right now where he should be doing more jobs, so to speak.
So just to clarify that statement a little bit, just for everybody else at home, What we mean is Ray, excuse me, I almost said Dom. Ray should be doing more jobs to put over younger talent.
Yes.
Which is a big reason why that if they had Dragon Lee in the match, I would have been okay with them winning. The fact that it was Andrade, the fact that they did show Carlito kind of being like, a little bit backstage on Friday night when Ray told him it was Andrade in the tag match, just kind of made it seem like there was going to be that double cross the next night at WrestleMania, which never happened. So I'm in agreement with you that I think it should have been Dom and Santos at that point winning the match. I think Carlito should have cost him the match. Obviously, you know, we're recording this the Monday after Mania, so we'll have to see what happens on SmackDown, but that is my expected creative direction for them to go forward with LWO. But obviously, we'll see. You're muted again, dude.
I thought it was a good matchup. I just, yeah, there was some things that, again, I would have changed. Maybe also Rey Mysterio not winning, because like Santos Escobar, it's like, oh, your first Mania, and you're losing
To Ray.
to Ray. Oh, but Jason Kelsey came out and helped. Yeah, great.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so this next one was actually another one too that I considered a little bit underwhelming, but that was because of my kind of thought process in the sense of, well, Jimmy is really going to have to show people something coming into this because Jay is obviously the money, and everybody sees that, but is Jimmy going to be able to step up to it and prove and say to everybody, hey, I'm just as good. Like, I can go just as much as he can. That didn't quite happen. I was not impressed at all by Jimmy Uso in this. And his kind of like, this is his, all right, dude, you got to show us. And Jim Nettie Uso. That's what I call him now. Jim Nettie Uso.
Jim Nettie.
Jim Nettie Uso did not bring what he should have. And Jay clearly proved not only in the victory, but just in the thought process of just in general winning the matchup in the way he did and being able to now move on. Now, the question is, what happens with Jimmy Uso? So I'm in the middle of doing this right now, right? And my lovely fiance is in my doorway eating a bag of combos that I had left in the kitchen that I had bought for WrestleMania weekend. She opened the combos and now is eating the combos directly in front of me in my doorway while I'm trying to record here.
She creepily staring at you as well.
Yeah, and she just had to throw me a combo.
I was wondering why I saw the camera shake a little bit too.
I need more here.
No, why'd you bring him in here?
To taunt you, obviously.
Bring him in there. No! They're not paying for the advertisement. I don't want them.
Sponsor us. Sponsor us. Sponsor us.
Sponsor us combos.
Yeah. Listen, I didn't hate the match. I didn't really care for it too much. This part of the problem with doing this as often as we have done it is like the amount of predictability and the amount of and I think, listen, I'll say this too. I think John got in our head a little bit because he didn't care about this match. And then as we talked about it as we progressed on Thursday, I stopped kind of caring about it myself. Part of it is the lack of build. You could say what you want about the build and how it's built over months and months and months and stuff like that, but it never really felt that way. It just didn't. Go ahead.
John has this thing about this ability to just incept things into your head. He made me
does.
like AEW for a while, so I mean, it just works.
It's one of those things with this match, though. It's like I knew the outcome. I can't really stand Jimmy. Your point is valid, though. It's just like it was Jimmy's time to come up and say, "Hey, like this is me. I can win matches. I could be a singles competitor," and I never got that vibe. And any of the matches he's been in all year, when it was a singles match, I never got that vibe. So, between that and his Deweys and stuff, it's just like I don't really care that much. So,
I mean,
I don't know. Go ahead. You muted again.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it's not translating to what it should be in the ring. And
Right.
that's part of the problem. And it's just not translating. I just don't get it. Jay is miles ahead of this dude in a singles career. It's not even funny. And unfortunately for Jimmy, it's like you're just going to be a tag team guy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm sure that there's probably going to be that. It's going to be awkward at fucking family functions now if he doesn't accept the fact that, yeah, Jay's going to go ahead of you. Jay's probably going to be world champion someday.
Yeah.
Probably going to happen. And you might get another tag team run or two. I don't know. I don't know if they put you with Solo.
That's
Don't
what
know
I was
yet.
thinking. Yeah. I was just thinking the same thing. Maybe put him with Solo. Because really, what has he done all year except beat John Cena? Like, that was it. And then
That was it.
like,
And then he went like 0-37.
Yeah, 0-37. Yeah.
In a row?
Yep. I was waiting for that comment because I was just gonna say, just like Clerks, number 37 comes up again. Oh,
No
man.
pun intended.
Oh, there's pun intended. There is definitely pun intended, sir. Nice try.
Well, as long as you get through the parking lot, you're fine.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything else to add here. The next match was the 6 women.
No, one more. We do need to add one thing.
Okay.
Yeet.
I love how they were still chanting that on Sunday, by the way. So the next match was the 6-women tag team match. Damage Control, Dakota Kai, Asuka, and Kairi Sane, the Kabuki Warriors, against Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Naomi.
Yeah. Or as they should call this the Jade Cargill Showcase.
Yeah, and we'll
The
probably
Jade
not see her
Cargill
again
Platinum
anytime soon,
Showcase.
ironically enough.
Hey, it did what it needed to do. It pretty much just showed, it showed the promise that she has, but definitely again, they put her in a situation where it was going to be hard for her to look bad because they put her against competent talent and they put her alongside also established talent with credibility. So now people are automatically seeing her and putting her in the same light as a Bianca and as a Naomi. So it was a real hard situation for her to fail in, and she didn't. I think the real star of this matchup was Dakota Kai.
Yes.
But
no, I agree. I agree.
But that was one of those things you're just sitting there, you're like, moving on. But
But I think she also did the work.
She did. She did.
I get what you're saying, and I'm not going to comment, but I think that she also did the work. She ate a lot of those moves, probably more than the other two did. Not saying that they didn't do their work, but it seemed like she was the primary lead runner for Damage Control in this match, which isn't a bad thing. Kairi is there to eat moves too. Asuka's there to be Asuka. So, I mean, I don't hate this match. I think it's exactly what we expected from it, though. But I will say that when Jade hit that choke slam, I was like, wow. Like, I don't know what it was. How often do you see a woman do a choke slam?
I loved it. I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I just thought this was a great match for what it was. Was it the best match on the card? No, but it's exactly what it needed to be. Like you
met
said.
My expectations.
Yep.
That's kind of the common thread of night one. Met my expectations. And this match kind of did the same. And it was really good. I think it showcased Jade. She's a fucking star. It's not even close. It's not even a debate. I knew it when she debuted in AEW. I told everybody, I said, look, this woman's a star. She's just in the wrong company. And sure enough, 3 years later, she's in the right company. They put her on at WrestleMania, and she's going to be a talent that people are going to be talking about for a long time.
Absolutely.
She just has the look. She has everything you could possibly want. She has the athleticism. Yeah, she's got to get more refined in ring, but that comes over time. I feel like that they are going to do everything they can to make sure that this woman doesn't fail. And I don't think she's going to. So they did everything they could to make her look like a star coming into the show. And I said it was going to be the Jade Showcase. And it was. And it met my expectations in the end. The real question coming into this too, we all talked about the Chad Gable, Sami Zayn situation with Gunther. There were a lot of people that were pissed off that Gunther and Sami Zayn were happening. They wanted it to be Chad Gable. That was such a big topic of conversation. Even John and I went back and forth on it because I was just like, well, if Chad loses, what does that do for Chad? That just hurts him more because he lost at WrestleMania. Because I don't know if Gunther is losing the championship at WrestleMania. And lo and behold, Sami Zayn, they went in with this Rocky storyline. It was supposedly Rocky 3, Rocky 4 type build-up, which...
People said Rocky 3. I always thought it was Rocky 4.
It's kind of the training montage, how Chad Gable was kind of training Sami Zayn was from Rocky 3.
Right, yeah.
That aspect of it. But Rocky 4 was kind of the matchup that this was. So it was elements from 3 and 4.
Fair enough, yeah.
This was... Because I said coming in, I said, if Gunther loses, I said, it's not going to hurt him. I said, but if Sami Zayn loses, it's not going to hurt him. But what it does now, it puts Sami Zayn in a real... He's arguably... And I'll probably get shit for this. But I've never been someone that... I've never been someone that I thought that really... I don't refrain from it. You know, and I also don't mind it. I don't mind a good debate sometimes and a good fight. But I feel like Sami Zayn is everything that Daniel Bryan wasn't. Where it just... Because it just...
Listen, the only thing I'm going to say is this. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think in terms of just in-ring talent, I think Daniel Bryan is better. But overall talent, be it in the ring, on the mic, I don't want to say
just a personality.
Personality is a good one. That's another good standard.
Just the personality, just someone that he comes out there and he's able to convey people emotion. And he's done this at every single level that he's ever been at.
Yep.
He's done this in Ring of Honor. He's done this in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. He's done it at NXT. And he's able to transition over from NXT, where he was like this underground darling. In the last 2 years, he has been one of the biggest underdog baby faces in company history.
Yeah.
And he did it again this past weekend. We're coming into this, we were just like, it's probably just going to be another notch on the belt for Gunther. But holy shit. You're watching this thing and you're thinking to yourself, there's no way. There's no way. There were certain moments you're just like, there's no way he's going to be able to pull this off. And fuck, he pulled it off time and time again. And that finish, I couldn't disagree with it. I didn't hate it. I didn't sit there and I got mad about it, because it's like, him winning is believable because he's done it before, especially when he pulled that brainbuster. Oh my God.
Yeah, that was out of nowhere too.
That was, I knew it was probably coming when he had him up. Mike and John and I both were like, he's going to fucking, and when he hit it, and then you had Cole go brainbuster. Just that, it's like, wow, Cole was fucking turned into PWG for a second. Holy shit. Felt like it was Excalibur for 90 seconds. It was, yeah, but you know, it was a match from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or Ring of Honor at the WWE level. And it was between guys that are extremely credible, somebody that has brought the prestige back of the Intercontinental Championship, and a guy that everybody and their mother was into that matchup. They went nuts when he won the belt. He kind of got that, which again was ultimate booking on WWE's part, because it's like, we're going into the main event. Let's get these fuckers woken up. They can take the long piss, because there's going to be like a 40-minute interval between the fucking main event and this match, which we'll talk about when we get into the main event. Jesus God. But what a performance again by Sami Zayn. He has, in the last 3 years, arguably, especially with the Johnny Knoxville matchup, which I have to put him in that category, because that match was hard to pull off. That match was extremely hard to pull off, and he pulled it off so well, and made it fun. Like, that match on paper should have blew, just because of the fact Johnny Knoxville had never wrestled in a professional wrestling match before in his life, and it's going to be at Wrestle fucking Mania. But it's against somebody that you can have complete trust with, and you know who's going to make it look good. And that's exactly what Sami Zayn did. And that's why, coming out of that matchup, I was like, that's one of the best matches of the night, of the weekend. And it was completely against the norm that I thought it was. And he had enough charisma to come out of that led to the Bloodline story, which gave him all the boosts last year. He was the main event last year with Kevin Owens going up against the Usos in one of the most cathartic WrestleMania moments. Yet, you know, we'll talk about the main event from last year with night 2. A lot of people were disappointed, but after night 1, no one was disappointed. And I felt like this one, again, it was that feel-good moment again, where it would have been great with Chad Gable doing it. It probably would have, but I just don't feel like that Chad Gable can captivate the audience the way that Sami Zayn has. Like, Sami is just on a different level compared to everybody else. And he's always been kind of the same guy, really. Like, he's never really had to change anything from, at least with Triple H booking him, so to speak. He's never really had to change anything. Like, every aspect of his character is just, it's always been there. It's always been genuine. And he hasn't had to change. He's always just been somebody that I feel like has been consistent and been able to work with everybody and be able to give, and also been able to, he's given everybody. And another tremendous performance at Mania this year. Like another one where you just have to sit there and say, yeah, he's an all-time great. Like Sammy is excellent. And Gunther too. And bravo. Thank you for taking that title to just back to the prestige and where it needs to be. And you know now who's ever got the World Heavyweight Championship or the Universal title or WWE Championship, whatever they're going to call it now, they're in big fucking trouble.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I said this last week. I said, if they lose, or even if one wins, which I would have said this about Sammy, but I don't think it's necessary now, giving him the IC belt, but taking the belt off Gunther, you need to put him in the main event scene now. And if it's not now, it needs to be within the next 3 to 6 months at most, because that's the way it should go, truthfully. Now he's free of that, I don't want to say a mid-card title, given what he's done with it, but effectively it is, let's be real. And now he should be in the main event. It's just, the guy has earned it. What he's done with the Intercontinental title, he's earned it.
Not even a debate.
Yeah.
Not even should be up for debate as far as I'm concerned.
The one thing I will add, though, is that John was right about one thing. Sami Zayn ate a lot of power bombs.
He did. He did.
This was a match that I originally said Gunther was going to win. I think a lot of people going in felt that way. I'm not disappointed that they took the belt off Gunther. I'm not, because like I said, you should put him in the main event. But I was surprised. Because it's Gunther. Like, he's a phenomenal talent, and that's not taking anything away from Sammy. He's got a power game. He's quick. He's fast. Gunther, I'm talking about. Sammy is too, don't get me wrong, but Gunther especially. And I'm very interested to see what he can do moving forward. With Sammy, I'm not going to say he shouldn't be in the main event, but giving him this, I think, and we're going to talk a lot about this, especially with the newer champions from Night 2, where you free up these titles a little bit, and you're probably not going to see some of these long reigns, except for Rhea's, kind of continue more than a few months at this point. I think Cody has the chance to be a great champion. We'll talk about that later. But I don't think he's going to be champion for very long. Same thing with Bayley. Logan Paul, I think, is a special case. We talked about that last week, being a social media star attached to a belt at this point. I think that booking decision was correct. We talked about that last week. I think with this, I think it is the right booking decision. But again, whoever is, whether it be world champion or WWE champion, like you said, they better watch out. Because he is coming. And I would love him to get fucked over, whether it be during his title reign or right before it, by Dragunov, like I said before.
Yes.
Because it's the meta NXT, they can still put on good work, and they both look a lot better than they did back then, especially Gunther. So, Gunther in shape versus Ilya Dragunov, whenever they call him up, is going to be magical. But
they've already said they don't plan on Dragunov getting called up for a while, so
which is stupid. But
they want him to carry that brand, which you have to have kind of a stability sometimes there.
But the thing is, listen, I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to say this: you have enough talent there that you can still do it. You have talent that you can send down. They've already proved that a few times. But I get it. But you also have Carmelo Hayes, who is on the cusp of being called up, it seems like. You have Trick Williams, who...
He's probably going to get caught. Like, I expect Carmelo to be... You'll probably see him in the next month, if not tonight.
I was thinking before SummerSlam, probably, at the very most. You have Trick.
Trick's probably going to beat Dragunov.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm going with that next comment, is like, if you have Trick, you don't need Ilya as much, as long as you have enough guys there that could challenge him, because, like, Corbin is not going to stay there forever, but you could potentially put the belt on him too. Corbin,
I think, likes it there.
I think he does.
I I wouldn't take that job as I wouldn't take working in NXT at this point as a demotion because
It's not.
you're going to get your downside no matter what, and you don't have to travel. You're going to Florida. And if you already live there, it's like, oh, I'll just fucking drive there. It's like if you live in Orlando, it's 2 hours to where you're fine.
Yep.
So
I
it literally is like just I don't consider it demotion. And so him staying there, I don't think it would. On the main roster, he had go away heat so bad, and I think they just kind of want to get him to kind of go down there and just be like, you know what, just be you, just fucking relax.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Get the stink off the main roster off you for a while.
Stink off. Oh man, you're not wrong though. It's the funny part.
All right. How many of us were like, fuck this guy, I hope he gets released tomorrow, and then see him in NXT and we're just like, you know what, I don't mind him here.
Because honestly, he went from like King Corbin, which was meh at most, I feel like. It was okay at some points, I'll say that, to Sad Corbin? And then
when he was broke, that was probably Pete Corbin when he was Sad Corbin,
which is just fucking ironic.
It was so hysterical.
Yeah, and then to Happy Corbin because he won the lottery or some gambling in fucking Vegas or whatever. To like,
and he was teamed up with Madcap Moss. Oh,
yeah,
what's that
which
fucking
was
guy doing
so
now?
stupid. And it's just, oh man, it was just so dumb.
I heard Madcap Moss is parking cars now, so it's fine.
Really? I'm surprised you can go to AEW.
They got enough problems.
Yeah. I would have released him too, like the other talent a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
All right. Moving on to the main event of WrestleMania Saturday Night 1. You have the Bloodline, The Rock, and Roman Reigns, with Paul Heyman defeating Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins for Night 1. So that means that stipulation was Bloodline rules for the main event of WrestleMania Sunday.
Yeah. This was over 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Over 40 minutes. The entrances in between the Gunther Sami Zayn match and the main event was over 40 minutes just for the entrances. I was like, my God. I mean, The Rock's entrance, though, is pretty goddamn cool.
I'm going to start a little bit backwards with this.
Yes.
Because I just want to make it clear, because I think we both maybe wanted this to go a certain way. I know we talked about that on Thursday or last week, whichever, last show.
Yeah.
But I also think it's important to say, if you know you have Bloodline rules as a possibility for Sunday, you know The Rock and Roman were going to win this match.
Oh, yeah.
Because the only other stipulation is that nobody's at ringside if Cody wins.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not that interesting. That's just a regular match. Which you'd make the argument it kind of was a regular match anyways in some cases. But for this match, I'm really conflicted of whether this was a great match, a good match, or a little bit in between. I think it's good. I don't know if it's great. And I think it's an interesting conversation because there are parts to this match that I think were exactly the plan. And there's other matches, or other parts of the match, where you almost felt like, okay, they're going off script a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, because going back to the comment I made earlier about feeling like the Attitude Era, man, this match had that. Because the amount of F-bombs that they bleeped out in this match from The Rock was wow. But my favorite quote of the night, or one of them anyways, "Don't count. I'll take your job. The Rock don't fuck around. Don't fuck with me. I'm the boss. I'm the final boss." It made me just break.
What a dick.
I was laughing so hard. I liked it for what it was, and I feel like it didn't get the reaction that I was really expecting at certain points during the match. I think it still did, but maybe not as much as I thought it would be. And kind of to your point, whether that was the cold, whether that they're saving it for night 2, a combination thereof, I don't know. But this match was a little bit more than I expected. I expected it to get out of hand, but not to the level it rose to. You have 2 of them fighting through the crowd. You have 2 of them fighting up the ramp. You have, multiple screw job attempts by the Rock and Roman. I was a little surprised no Solo, no Jimmy. Made sense though, considering night 2. But this, I mean, I don't know how you felt about this, but this is, I don't know. I don't know. I think it was good.
I thought it was I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. I thought it told. Number one, I thought the right guys won. Now you also have a storyline built in because of the finish.
From night 1 to night 2, yeah.
To night 2, but you not only have one short term, you have one long term. Because now The Rock can come back and say, you owe me because I beat you night 1 and then you went out. Like, now there's that conversation that he can have with Cody and say, you owe me a shot at the title. Like, I technically pinned the champion. Of course, we'll get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's save that for night 2.
That conversation can be had now. But I thought, I really enjoyed it. I feel like the way that they set up night 1 sometimes is this is like the short term kind of casual wrestling fan, because it's like everybody was there kind of and watching it to see The Rock, because no one had seen him in a wrestling ring in over a decade. So there's always that, there's only a handful of times this is probably going to happen again. And, this is a big deal. And they probably sold a lot of tickets, I think, just on the sense of that, it's The Rock and this is WrestleMania, and it worked. And it was great. I thought the match was really good. I thought everybody kind of did, Rock did his stick. Everything that you expected him to do, he did. I felt like the spear that Roman hit on him, that was going to play into some things that would happen the next night. Turns out it didn't.
I was surprised by that.
Yeah, that was one thing I was like, is he going to remember that tomorrow? And no, it played nothing to do with anything. Again, though, that did kind of give you a talking point for the next day.
That's true.
Like, which a little Easter egg that you had in the back of your mind now of just saying, okay, is this going to be a plot point later on?
Right.
Which I thought there were several over the weekend that were really, like when Triple H sent out a tweet talking about how tonight's going to change the face of WWE for it's going to be a complete new era, and the tweet went out at 3:16 p.m. All these little things that people were kind of just like, whoa, hey, which even if they didn't all come to fruition, even if little things which a lot of them didn't, there were still little talking points that people were just like, hey, I heard this and this is, and it was kind of fun from that aspect, because let's face it, this was one of those shows, and this is the first time in WrestleMania history in a long time, where we really had no idea on what was going to happen on most of the shit that was going on. And that's a luxury we haven't had as wrestling fans in a very long time. And nobody really knew that this was going to be the main event for night 1 up until 6 to 8 weeks ago. This was still kind of bantered about, and they were like things tossed around. It could have been Roman versus Rock.
I think that's a good point. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but the YouTube special is Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we talk about that on the next show.
Yes.
And see where this has really taken them. Because if you go and look at the trailers to those, I think Triple H said as a quote in those trailers for this show on Wednesday that the card was like 80% booked.
Yeah, it was 80% done by October.
By October.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just talking like 6 months or so away at that point. And I'm sure that this is part of that, right? Not night one, but night two.
And the other part of that, too, this is also October. This was a month and a half before CM Punk returned.
Right.
So there was still that factor that didn't get thrown in there. There were so many variables that kind of got thrown in, which made WrestleMania so interesting this year, because the Royal Rumble especially, there were so many roads that this could have went down. No pun intended.
I was waiting for the pun intended.
But like, and I know somebody's just... I'm surprised he never said, where we are going, we don't need roads. Like, I'm surprised he never threw that out there, because I would have probably popped for it. But
because part of it is it's not true if you think about it. I think this company absolutely needed him in the here and now, and we can talk about the last year aspect of that. But that being said, I think this company needed him.
No, I'm just...
I know. I get what you're saying. Don't worry. I'm just making the comment that I can't really make the joke.
No, you can't make the joke. No, you can't. Like, because... that was always a joke that I would have been like as a heel. I'd be like, you got to use that. Like, just be like, where this company goes, we don't need roads. Like, it's...
Well, maybe Drew can say it to Cody now.
Yes, Drew can say it to Cody, because... Surprised he did not get involved at any point, and do anything of that nature. I think I like the fact that they started the Rollins knee injury with this, which also kind of makes me think that maybe Rollins wasn't 100% coming into Mania at all. That they made it sound like that he was cleared, but he really wasn't, and that they were kind of just saying, all right, well, he might have more damage than we once thought. We don't know. Right. A lot of question marks that were going around with Rollins, but he was a gamer and was able to perform in this match. And then the next night, he would make 2 appearances the next night. But at least for this night, 40 minutes, very good. I really enjoyed it. Kind of told the story and did the spots that I kind of expected of how it was going to go. But exactly I wouldn't say it exceeded my expectations, because I thought it was going to be really good considering the people that were involved.
Right.
And I thought The Rock was going to get carried, which he did. But
not to the extent that I thought he was, though.
He did his part. Right. Like, he really did a hell of a job. And was able to do everything I think that was asked of him, and then some. So from that perspective, I'm happy with it. I'm glad that it, and I thought it was a solid night one main event, and kind of, got everybody excited for the next day. And then, but my favorite comment was Michael Cole. Cody gets pinned. Cody is screwed.
Yep.
Like, I pop for that. I'm just like, and everything kind of led into what happened the next night of the main event, which was, we'll obviously get into quite a bit.
Yep.
But night 2, holy hell, did it kick off strong. Like, where night 1, you're kind of like the first matchup with Rhea and Becky Lynch, you're kind of sitting there and you're like, oh, that wasn't as good as I expected it was going to be. Night 2, though, holy shit. Like, immediately, within... Number 1, the entrances were cool, especially with...
Well, I'll say Drew's was cool.
Well, there is a tie-in for Seth Rollins' entrance, okay?
That's cool. I don't care. I didn't like
So
it.
I understand why so it's the mummers, right? The mummers that were that they were discussing. Okay,
Yes.
so the first ECW. Now, when ECW took over at Vikings Hall, which became the ECW arena, quote unquote, that was actually owned and operated by the mummers, and so they would do a lot of their parade floats and things of that nature, and for their parades and stuff of that, all that stuff, and off one of those floats is where Al Snow got a styrofoam head, and that's how we came up with head. So it's because of the mummers that we got the ECW arena, and we also got Al Snow to get himself over with head, and also gave us the wonderful question, what does everybody want? I mean, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that? A wonderful question that Al Snow brought to the forefront of America. What does everybody want? And then the little styrofoam head pops up.
It's funny because when I talked to you, that was not your reaction. Your reaction, I actually just played your reaction, just so you know. Because
I know you did.
Okay, I'm just making sure I don't know if you're looking at the screen.
That was my initial. But the thing about it is, my initial react. The fact is that Seth Rollins' both attires on Saturday and Sunday night, the reaction that you played is exactly what I had said on multiple occasions.
I think you had it more night 2, but yeah, night 1 you had it as well. And it was ironic because on night 1, just to go back to that for a second, the commentary team even was like, "Is that a hat? I don't think that's a hat. Is that a hat?"
I don't understand what I mean. Look, as far as what it looks on good on action figures, yeah, it's really aesthetic. It's cool. I like it. I appreciate it. But when you look like you're going to a quinceañera every single fucking night
Oh my god!
for WrestleMania, it's like, what is this? What are we doing here? Like,
How did we get here?
how did we get here? How did we get here, Seth? Are you and Becky just like, that's good, I'll take that. That's good, I'll take that. It's all her leftovers, I guess. He's just like, oh, I'm going to take them and use them. Which, look, I love his gimmick. I love Seth Rollins. I think he's a fantastic worker. But some of his wardrobe choices this weekend, I was just like, maybe that's a bit too far. Just a tad out of the realm of where you want to be. But within 10 seconds of the match, Drew lands a fucking Claymore.
I don't even think it was 10. I think it was like 5.
It was literally like
that bell rings, Claymore.
It literally was every 2K game when half the time when I'm playing it, when I'm just, the first thing I do is I run across the ring with a running attack. That's literally what it does. Actually, I think John and I were like, so they started the match with 5 finishers apiece, right? Like, so they maxed them both out. So it's just like, Claymore, pedigree, Claymore. I think that's literally the offense of the matchup. Drew McIntyre was obsessed with winning the World Heavyweight Championship, and he was able to win the World Heavyweight Championship. And it was clearly obvious with the injury that Seth had suffered night 1 that they had figured out a way to give him an out for losing at night 2. And also set it up perfectly for Drew to win the title, make it seem like it's the greatest night of his life, and then he fucks with the wrong person. But what did you think, Mac?
If we just go back to the last show, the collaboration episode of Pro Wrestling World Talks, yourself, myself, and John, this is the match that I said there was going to be a cash in. And I remember kind of you and John like, Not really commenting one way or the other, I think. I know John was a little surprised I said it at first, but other than that, I don't know. I just, he had to cash in at some point. He could have waited till Backlash. He could have waited till the night of Money in the Bank, I guess. I don't think he has to do it before that. He has the full year from Money in the Bank to Money in the Bank to cash it in, I think. And just...
Could have waited until tonight.
Yeah, he could have. He could have. Could have cashed in on Cody or Drew probably tonight, because I have a feeling both are going to be there. Because technically speaking, he is still signed to Raw, is Cody Rhodes. So I think you're right. And there's a potential you could have cashed in on both even at that point. You know, if they're both in the ring talking about their championship wins and kind of frenemying, so to speak, then you probably could have ran out and cashed in on both. But I think the reality of giving Damian Priest a WrestleMania moment, they talked about him being the first superstar of Puerto Rican descent to win a world championship in, I believe, 50-something years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. First one since Pedro Morales, yes.
Correct, yeah. So that, listen, we didn't talk about this for the women's tag team championship, whatever, or 6-woman tag match, I should say, excuse me. But literally, it's inclusivity. And Naomi talked about this in the press conference after night one as well. Being inclusive and featuring your talent that is of different ethnicities is just huge. It shows the company in a very positive light. Yeah, you can sit there and say, oh, well, Bianca and Sasha Banks and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, I get that, but this is different. This is a different feel. And Damian Priest is no exception to that. I had no doubt in my mind that Damian Priest was going to cash in and be successful in his cash in at some point. He just never knew when. And I remember thinking about it this past week or so, and when we did the show last time, that I said, no, I think he's going to cash in. And ironically enough, he gets into it with CM Punk to Drew McIntyre, because of course he does. And then that's what happened. He comes out, cashes in. 9 seconds later, he's World Heavyweight Champion. And I think, especially after losing the Undisputed Tag titles and having them split from night one, this was just kind of bittersweet for them in night two. Overall, the match itself, I don't think was bad. But you knew Seth Rollins was quote-unquote playing hurt. You knew Drew was going to take advantage of that, and he absolutely did. Coming right out of the box with a Claymore, I thought was just incredibly poetic.
It was.
And hitting as many Claymores as he did also, I thought just, you had to put him down. He did that. I think this was a good match for what it was, which was not a long match. It was only a little bit over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But having the extracurricular after with CM Punk and then the Damian Priest cash in, I just, I knew it was coming. I don't know what it was about this match, but I knew Priest was going to cash in here. I thought it was very well done, and it was 100% correctly booked. I'll say it that way. 100%.
I loved it with McIntyre's Twitter usage. Hilarious. It was hilarious yesterday when he was tweeting mid-match, and then after losing the title immediately to Damian Priest, he just tweeted one word. It was just fuck. Like, completely. A complete and honest reaction to something that I think I would have, and many others, concerning the fact that they had fought so hard to get to the World Heavyweight Championship. You finally beat Seth Rollins after so many times, and then you decide to go run your mouth to CM Punk, and then he fucks you over, and then Damian Priest comes out and beats you for the championship. It is so poetic, so hilarious. And I wonder what because I fully expected McIntyre and CM Punk are going to be challenging. Because McIntyre now is going to find a way to get the championship back from Damian Priest. So that way they can do CM Punk and Drew McIntyre at some point, because that obviously is going to be the matchup that I think everybody is kind of rooting for. That also depends on McIntyre's contract situation. We still don't know what that is. We don't know if that's cleared up or not. I fully expect he's going to stay with WWE.
Yeah, same.
But there's always that outlier. There's always that fact that because Tony Khan at this point would love nothing more to fuck up WWE's plans, and throwing a bunch of money at Drew McIntyre might be able to do that, and also might be able to get them a little bit of ratings. I don't know, though. Depends. It really depends. But I fully expect McIntyre to kind of re-sign with the company on a long shot that AEW really finds the right price. But no, I really enjoyed how they kind of did this. This really wasn't a match. It was more of kind of like a spectacle story. But CM Punk was hilarious on commentary. And just his whole reaction, just laughing at him when he lost after he caused it. Which, look, CM Punk has caused quite a few fights, especially at stadium shows in the last year. But this one may have had more of a. This one just has an impact on storyline wise. It doesn't have an impact maybe in a company wise.
I don't know. It could. It could. But you're right though. Like to a point, but like it could. We don't know. I just the thing is like even if he signs something temporary to have that match with CM Punk, I think that benefits him incredibly.
Yes.
Right. Regardless of the money, regardless of a long-term contract, they have to iron that out. Like you said, we have no idea if that's been done. It's just not being discussed. After this match, I feel like it should be. Because Drew McIntyre is one of those guys, in my opinion, that just continues to prove his worth.
Yes.
And the thing about what you said in terms of trying to get the title back, I don't know. Because we don't know how much longer CM Punk has for his injury either. You know, it's like he took the thing off, he hit him with it, and then he tried to put it back on, and then he hit him with it again. So it's like, okay, like, how injured are you at this point? And I'm not trying to say he's not injured. Of course he is. But to what extent, and what's the timeline, stuff like that, we still don't know. And maybe instead of Drew, it's CM Punk, and he gets the title, and Drew has to get it off of Punk. Because I don't know if they're going to do heel versus heel, because technically on paper, Drew is a heel right now. You know, unless they have this methodology of like, well, he's technically an anti-hero. Or like I said, maybe they start killing off the Judgment Day because now that he's world champion, the other's going to get jealous of him, especially without the tag team titles. So I feel that could go either way at this point. From the company perspective, though, like you were saying, like I think it matters. I think it does, because if you lose a guy like Drew at this point, how many heels do you really have at this point? Yeah, you got a few, but not Drew.
Even Meltzer said, he's just like, yeah, I think everybody's staying. He's like, I don't think any of them are really leaving, because I think there's such high morale in the company right now with everything.
Right.
And and it's just everybody right now everybody's in a good place. Everybody is happy. Everybody loves coming to work, and you see that. You see everybody now in promos. Everybody's confident. You see people now. The elephant's out of the room. Everything is good. Everything is, and especially out of this weekend, everybody is especially sky fucking high. If you leave now, you're fucking crazy. You are absolutely out of your fucking tree leaving this company right now to go elsewhere.
Right.
Just thinking that the pasture is the pasture is greener on the other side, because it isn't. This is the place you want to be, and I think Drew realizes that. I think Seth realizes that. I think Becky realizes that. I think Becky and Seth need to take 6 months off. I think both of them just need to take the summer off, be parents, be normal people, Just take some time off. Come back in the fall.
So I'm gonna stop you for a second. I think what they should do, in all honesty, is go the route of the Brock Lesnar's of before he went to AEW, the Adam Copeland's, and be special attractions. I don't think there's that need to be there full time anymore. I think they only need to show up when they need to show up. So whether that's 2 house shows a quarter and a pay-per-view a quarter, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think at this stage of their careers, especially given Seth Rollins' health issues with his leg, with his back, I think it's time to start addressing those things as he gets a little bit older, which is kind of right there. And that's not to take anything away from either of the talent that both have, but I think you're right. I think they need to take that time to be normal people, to be parents, to not, drag the kiddo around in the bus all the time. And I'm not saying it's all the time, but let's be real. It's a good chunk of the time. And I'm sure they have enough money to do that and pay a private tutor if they needed to and whatever else. But I think that they need the time off. I can't disagree. I just think they need the time.
It's not like it's a road schedule anyways before like it was. If they just want to do TV and they want to, so once a week and then do the pay-per-view a year and then maybe the big shows you can set this up where you're working 65 dates, 70 dates a year.
Yeah. And that's
which is nothing. It's nothing where it was 25, 35 years ago where you were on the road 270, 300 days a year. It ain't happening like that anymore. You can, even 100 dates a year, I'm sure they would take it. Like, they're going to get paid extremely well. They're going to have a lot more creative freedom. They're already consistent legends. They're Hall of Fame talent, worthy talents. Right. So I think they're going to want to keep in that realm. So I don't see them going anywhere. I do like the cash in. It's going to be interesting to see where Damian Priest goes from here. That Finn Balor, I think Finn Balor will probably be one of the first kind of ones to kind of cross that line and just say,
"Yep,
what the fuck."
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's definitely not going to be Dom. It's not going to be JD. It's going
to be Finn. Finn's just going to be like, "What the fuck?" Like, I'm the bigger star, you know it. And Damien could just look at him and just say, well, yeah, 8 years ago.
Okay. Tell us how you really feel, Dan. Oh, man. All right. I don't think we need to add anything else here. So the next match was the Philadelphia Street Fight match. So we had Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford coming in the ring with B-Fab versus the Final Testament, Karrion Kross, Akam Razor, AOP, Authors of Pain, with Scarlett and Paul Ellering. The special guest referee was, I still call him Bully, but Bubba Ray Dudley, which I thought added to this match, by the way. I think this definitely added to the match.
It was probably the highlight of the match, let's be quite honest.
Yeah, I
the most over special guest referee, the most over special guest referee in WrestleMania history, but because he'll tell you that he's the most over.
Absolutely will.
And so I'm cracking myself up over here because it's so ridiculous on what he used to say that in TNA. AOP was dead for like 20 minutes of like this matchup. I remember it was Karrion Kross working like the last 10 minutes by himself.
Yep.
Because AOP were like sleeping at ringside.
So I do want to touch on this real quick before I actually move on, but I think it's really funny that WWE, because that's where I pulled all the stuff from. Like I'm gonna just say that now. So I went on, I grabbed all the pictures of the winners and stuff like that, so I could have them and just plug and play as we go. But I noticed this on Wikipedia as well now, so that's why I want to bring it up. They're calling their stable, the Pride,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not announcing them that on TV.
Right.
And even during this pay-per-view, they didn't really announce them as the Pride.
No.
It was Bobby Lashley with the Street Profits and BFAB.
Yeah.
So I think it's really funny that WWE started calling them the Pride, but they're not even saying that at all on television.
No. I was happy that Lashley and the Street Profits won, but
I think that's where everybody thought this was going to go.
That's it.
Though.
Like
it wasn't a bad match for what
it wasn't
we got.
bad, but it wasn't like
no,
it wasn't like I'm going to sit there and be like.
That's what I'm saying. Like Bubba Ray or Bully Ray, like he enhanced this match.
He did.
I feel like without him, this match was not as good.
No.
If you take away the what's up, if you take away the glasses, if you take away the fact that he was over, then then this match probably sucks. I like that Scarlett and B-Fab got involved. But
Scarlett's a treat.
Oh yeah. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. Even B-Fab looked good. I was shocked. I was like, wow, okay.
Yes.
But yeah, they got involved. They went outside the ring, and when the Street Profits went back outside the ring to get another table after the prop table busted itself, which, you know, a lot of people want to talk shit about that. Listen, it is what it is. Like, I just, whatever. But they had to step over Scarlett to get the table out. It was cracking me up. I was like, wow, okay. Scarlett's just going to sit there and hope they don't hit her with the table.
She just laid there dead.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't move for like 10 minutes.
But neither did AOP, like you said.
No,
so.
neither did that. Like, he did that huge, awesome dive over like the turnbuckle post.
Yep.
And that was the last time we saw AOP. They got knocked into the void. And we never saw them again. Like,
yeah, good thing Paul Ellering wasn't standing right there too, by the way.
No,
he probably would have died.
He probably would have died.
But yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think there's much else to really say about this match. It did its job to put the Pride or Street Profits to Bobby Lashley, whatever you guys want to call them at this point, to give them a win, over Final Testament. But that was like literally it. All right, so that brings us to LA Knight and AJ Styles. This is one that I felt like if this was on night one, it probably would have stolen the show. We also have LA Knight that morning winning 2 Slammy Awards for Breakout Star of the Year and Chant of the Year for Yeah. This is a good match.
It really was. It really was. Like, it was... Yeah, because that was one on the weekend. I was just like, there's really nothing going to this. Like, kind of a weird feud. But they really did a hell of a job as far as the match is concerned. It just shows you how great AJ is, and the fact, too, that LA Knight can just be as good. Like, he can have a good match when he's working with somebody that has the capabilities of working a really good match, and AJ is one of the best ones. So it definitely was, I felt like, a WrestleMania-worthy matchup. Like, there was some question that might not be the case coming into this. People were questioning, like, is this really a WrestleMania, like, main event worthy, match card worthy? And it's like, yeah, it is. It was.
I mean, if anybody thought that, they're stupid. I'm sorry.
Right.
You have a guy like AJ Styles who's been a known I can't say that word. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Has been known in this industry for a long time as a known I can't say the word. Jesus. And you have a guy in LA Knight who has proven himself in WWE is the same. As much as he does not have the resume in WWE, he still has one in NWA. He still has one in other places as well as Eli Drake. And to see him come out and shine this match, we talked about it last week, LA Knight needed this win more than AJ did.
Yes.
And I think this match was booked correctly from that standpoint. I know you walked in kind of wanting AJ to win maybe a little bit more, but you also
Can both guys lose?
Yeah, exactly. Can both guys win, really?
Yeah.
I feel like at that point, this was one I felt maybe could have ended in a stupid way just to kind of save both from a loss. But
Yeah.
booked correctly, booked well, both put on a show. I was very happy with this match.
If they, I'm a little mad that they decided to change AJ's entrance music. That was kind of annoying and random.
Yeah, I agree.
An interesting note on the Slammies. It was also fun to see CM Punk running around happy with his two Slammy awards
on Sunday night. Yeah, the pre-show.
All weekend he looked like he was having like the best time of his life. He looked like a kid at Disney. He honestly just looked like a mark that was just like, hey, I'm just here to enjoy it as a fan. Like all weekend, it was fun to kind of see him kind of like just smiling and happy and grinning the whole time. It was great to have LA Knight get a victory here as well. Also get some shine with the Slammy Awards. And also AJ, I think, proved a lot of people too that, hey, I can have a good match with anybody, including somebody that kind of was getting a bad rap that he really couldn't have a killer match. And I thought LA here, this is kind of the match I think he needed to kind of get back on the right trajectory to kind of where he needs to get kind of back on. And I feel like that, maybe the Logan Paul matchup is still in reach at some point. So maybe SummerSlam, who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say, even maybe before that. I think if you want LA Knight, to win, it should be SummerSlam. But you have a lot of shows coming down the pike in other countries. You have France next coming month. You have Clash in the Castle in Scotland. You have Bash in Berlin in Germany. You have, I think, King and Queen of the Ring are in Jeddah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's in Jeddah, yeah.
Yeah, so, you have a lot of countries coming up. So, you could still potentially book that match in any of those countries. But I feel like doing it at SummerSlam will probably be the bigger one, obviously. Just in terms of the big four. But, yeah, he needed this win. I'm glad he got it. Right before the match, we didn't really touch on it, but right before the match, he gave the the Slim Jim car away. I guess they had a giveaway, so the people were sitting in the front row, and he gave them the keys.
The most random. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because on commentary, they're like, I think you should be paying attention to the match, not giving away a car right before it. Oh, man.
I'm glad he got that payday with that. I'm glad he's the spokesperson for it. There's really nobody else I think that can do it. Like, that gets him another nice check every month where everybody kind of, it's like, you know what? I didn't get the championship, but I'm the guy on Slim Jim, so that's pretty good too. Like, it's a nice little consolation prize.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. So the next match was the triple threat match for the United States champion. Champion Logan Paul defends and defeats Kevin Owens and Randy Orton with I Show Speed as the as the prime bottle. Oh, man.
You knew it was going to be somebody. I was just like, who the fuck is this guy again?
It had to be, obviously. Yeah. I thought they were just going to go with the guy they had last time. I forget his name, but...
KSI,
thank you. Yeah, I thought they were going to go with him again, but not the case.
I thought it was going to be somebody like really random but known, but this guy was really random and completely unknown. Like, I didn't even know who the fucking guy was.
Yeah.
I was like, who is this guy?
And his brother was there is the thing.
Yeah.
They should have used
that would have been too obvious, though, with Jake.
It probably would have been, but still. It would have been better.
They had Tyson come out and knock him out, though, at the end. That would have been funny.
Would have been great. Yeah. That would have been great.
This is decent. This is pretty good. I did not mind Logan Paul retaining. I think that's kind of been the plan, but also it's not something I could sit here and be like, yeah, again, I don't hate it. I don't hate Logan Paul in WWE. I really don't hate him
when he
general.
first started. I would make the argument, but
he's
proven himself for sure.
He's proven himself. Like, he takes it seriously, so it's like, okay. Like I can hang on to this.
Right.
And he does have one of the most athletic frog splashes I've ever seen. It's like
That thing was nuts. Even Corey Graves said if there's a roof in this place, he would have hit it.
like he's a ridiculous athlete, and he takes it seriously. So it's very hard for me to sit here and be like, I don't like him, like because I can't because
I'll kind of say it this way. From a kayfabe perspective, I hate it.
yes,
Just because I hated him as a character at this point. However, I do have to give him props, like you said, for what he's been able to do and achieve and just show out every time he's there. I remember the first match with him and The Miz. I remember the match with The Miz that he had.
Mhm.
I remember the springboard he had with Ricochet at the Rumble that year. He's had some insane spots. He had a great match with Rey Mysterio. Everything he's kind of done he's shown out, and I have to respect that. I still hate him as a character. I just do. It would have been nice for Randy or KO to win this match. As I said on the last show, though, from just a business perspective, Logan Paul has to win.
oh yeah, without question.
He just has such a following on social media, and this only enhances that. So if it enhances that, it's also going to do vice versa and enhance the company. And again, since you do have these international events coming more and more often, especially this year, we already have like 3 that we know about, if not more that we don't. It just makes sense. So from that standpoint, I know you guys agreed with me last week, so I don't think we need to spend too much more time on it. I thought it was funny, however, that Randy turned as quickly as he did on Kevin.
Well, I also did like the entrance of Orton too with Kevin Owens just picking him up with the golf cart.
I thought literally, even Randy, I don't know if you caught it, was like, slow down.
Yeah. I was like, oh God, please don't kill him.
Yeah, please don't go flying off this thing right now. Seriously.
But it was hilarious, just like him.
It really was.
It's just, he just pulls up. He's just like, He's just like, all right.
as soon as I kind of like saw the back of it and I saw Kevin Owens backing up when Randy's music hit, I was like, he's going to do it.
It's just hilarious. They really do have kind of like good on-screen chemistry together. Like if they wanted to
do. They really do, and I really hope they go back to it on Friday. And
do a tag team with them, like RKO KO or something like that.
Why can't you have like RKKO, like you said? Like, why not do that and have them face Waller in Theory now?
Yeah, and it's just like do like a quick little run with them, and I'm sure everybody will be like, well, it'll just be like RK Bro, and it's just like, well, yeah, except with less alcoholics involved in the situation, and to somebody that
mind-altering drugs. Period, I would say, or substances, yeah.
Allegedly,
yeah. No, I don't think there's any allegedly there, bro.
But no, I thought that those guys as a tag team, I think would just be hilarious. And they can somehow work that if that's something Orton wants to do, or the title picture the way it is, Orton now has really 2 viable options that he can challenge for against people that he can really work with.
I think that's a good talk right now.
Yeah,
but I think there's so many variables to that.
There really is. And
I want to see what happens on Raw, if not also as well on SmackDown.
Right.
Because, again, if we go back, first of all, they have to decide what to do. Because technically both talents, kayfabe, are signed to Raw.
Correct.
So do they flip a coin? Does one volunteer? That's one question.
Right.
The other rumor I'm hearing is there might be a draft soon. I don't know when that's going to be.
Right.
We don't even know if it might be announced tonight. That's kind of what happened last year. It was announced within a couple of weeks of Wrestlemania. So short of that, I think that's a good conversation because you're right. He could go against Damian Priest. They have that history at Elimination Chamber, or not Elimination Chamber, excuse me, War Games. It's Survivor Series.
Right.
And could also go after Cody. They have that history, much longer history too. So it'll be interesting to see how the championship race, as it were, kind of pans itself out over the next couple of weeks. Because I think it's almost exactly, if not a little bit less than a month before Backlash. So we'll have to see. But next match was for the WWE Women's Championship. We had Bayley facing Dakota Kai. I was kind of surprised that they made Damage Control stay in the back. Or didn't make them, but that they did, period, I guess. But this was a good match. I loved it. Yeah.
No, it was... I felt like it had a chance to steal the weekend.
It did.
It had a real chance to, like, just be... It's... If it's not top 2, it might be top 3 of the weekend. Like, it's in the it's definitely in the top 3 or 4. You can make the argument of the weekend.
We'll just say top 5 to be safe, but yeah, I totally agree. If we're talking just night 2, I would still say top 2, top 3.
Yes. Even for the week, if this was... It almost feels like if this was night 1, that this had the chance to be probably the best match of the night on night 1.
So just spitballing, but if they didn't have the main event of the tag team match,
this could have main evented.
Absolutely could have main evented night 1. Yeah,
it was outstanding. It really was. I felt like this is also, and Mark said this in the group chat. He says this is kind of like Bayley's legacy chip, which I feel like this is.
Oh, it absolutely was.
This is her kind of telling everybody, "Hey, There's a reason why that the Sasha Banks and Bayley match in Brooklyn was good. And yeah, it was 2 people in there, but you also look at Bayley's track record and the fact of that she has had great matches with pretty much everybody she's worked with.
Yep.
And this is another one too, where she can hang her hat on and say, yeah, you got another one over, because I think everybody... You can make the argument that Io Sky coming into this kind of needed this, not the victory, but more or less kind of needed a strong performance, which she got. I mean, out of this, Io Sky, even in a loss, got elevated to a whole nother level because she just got as over as Bayley did in this matchup, which is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You want to be able to, some of these other talent, be able to get the rub from your other major stars to be able to carry the ball. And that's exactly what happened with Io. And she's done that from the beginning because Io Sky, quite frankly, was big question mark. She might not even have been in the company up until the time that when Bayley returned at SummerSlam 2022 and then started Damage Control. When she came out, it was like, oh, okay. And Dakota Kai's contract was up at around that time too. And they both came back. It wouldn't have happened if certain people were still in power. But at the same time, Io Sky can say she was like the co-main event for WrestleMania Night 2 and had one of the better matches on the card of the whole weekend. And a year and a half ago, that probably wouldn't have been possible, but it is. And she's now a really respected talent. She's a major player, I think. And it's also raised her bar. It's raised her stock value. It's raised Bayley's stock value as far as her career is concerned. And once again, it's another star that she was able to make. And she is building, she's kind of one of the most underappreciated women in the history of the industry. And I'm glad that she's finally starting to get her flowers. She really deserved that victory last night. And that was another feel-good moment of the weekend. We put it up with Sammy and then what we'll talk about later on.
Right.
But it was in a weekend of feel-good memories, this was one of them as well.
So real quick, we are recording this on a Monday. We're about 9 minutes from Raw, and I just put on USA Network. I got it muted in the background next to me, and Cody Rhodes will be kicking off Raw. So, spoiler, if you're gonna listen to this before Raw, spoiler. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Bayley needed the win, but both of them needed the match.
Right.
And if you're gonna say that Bayley needed a defining win, that's fine. I agree. Io needed a defining performance.
Correct.
And both got delivered.
Yes.
Both. They both delivered on this match. I would argue, exactly like you said, that this was probably a career-defining match, especially for Io, but for Bayley as well, to say, hey, I want a championship and I want it at WrestleMania. And listen, she's been a champion before. I'm not going to discount that. She's just never won it at Mania. At a main event, which you could make the argument, like you said, was, 1A, 1B, 2 out of 1, whatever you want to call it. This effectively was the women's main event match.
Right.
So I think that for the performance that both women gave in just under 15 minutes was fucking amazing.
Yep.
I'm just going to say it that way. What a
spectacular
match. Yeah, what a match. What a night. Night 2 has been so far.
Io Sky's entrance, though, probably did keep people. If you had epilepsy, you probably had a seizure from her entrance, but that's besides the point. That was the only drawback.
I think the Egyptian goddess Bayley was kind of weird too, but
that was a little out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay.
But right. Speaking of entrances, I think Cody and Roman's entrances.
Main event time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just both of them. Not just one or the other, but both. Because, wow.
The mask was a little questionable on Cody.
It's the nightmare. It's the logo. I get it.
Yeah, I know.
I thought it was kind of weird too. Don't get me wrong.
It was a little weird, but like it looked cool.
It did,
and I thought the jacket was cool. I don't know if that was the same one that he wore. I think he had two separate gears for night 1 and night 2.
So he did, because if you remember night 1, I had said it in the chat when he before he'd come out, he had it in his hand, and it was the combined logos of his logo, the American Nightmare logo, and Seth freaking Rollins.
Oh, yeah.
And it was on his boots, too. I saw that night as well. So, yeah, that was it. Between that and the comment about... I think Mark made the comment about, oh, look, the orchestra or chorus for Roman is already wearing funeral black.
Yeah, that was a little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
A little bit of
I didn't
foreshadowing.
think of it that way, but when he said it, I was like, hey, it's got a point.
Well, I mean,
I want to read something real quick, just from Wikipedia, ironically, because obviously we look at match times. So before I even read this, I'm just going to say this was a 33-minute, 25-second match, which it felt like. But this is the last sentence before the results. It's the reception segment for WrestleMania 40 on Wikipedia. And this is the last sentence of that section. Many commentators describe the match and appearances by John Cena, The Rock, and Undertaker as being WWE's Avengers Endgame moment. Which is funny because I sent you and Mark a clip of a video with the Avengers theme from one of the SmackDowns a couple weeks ago when Cody was supposed to be there alone.
Yeah.
And Seth Rollins and Jey Uso were actually with him to
back up.
Yep, have the standoff with the Bloodline. So, I think it was either you or Mark who also sent like a Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah. With Brandy as Captain Marvel, which made me crack up. But this, to me, especially after last year, which we have to talk about, was just bittersweet. I'm not gonna lie, I actually got emotional with this, especially after.
Yeah, it tugged it
Definitely tugged, yeah.
it definitely tugged. It tugged on that line. You weren't the only one.
I'd be surprised if I was.
Yeah, like it was one of that. It was just one of those. It was just like, God damn it, they got you.
Yep. You know what it was for me? Ironically enough, it wasn't any of them. It was actually Michael Cole. And Samantha Irving.
Yeah.
Michael Cole and Samantha Irving had the biggest reactions, I think. And those got me. Samantha, for those that heard it, over all the cheering and everything else, was very emotional. There's clips of her crying as she announces it. Michael Cole, when Cody actually went out there to him, flat out, I love you. This is why I love pro wrestling, etc., etc. And having Pat McAfee is like the biggest defender of the bloodline on commentary, even he had to congratulate Cody. And honestly, I know I'm talking a lot about the after of the match, but this match, for everything they both put into it, for everything that we got out of it, is probably going to stand out for a long time.
Oh, without question. I thought it was a better match than they had last year, and that's saying something, because last year's match, up until the finish, was a masterpiece.
It really was.
I remember coming in, and I said the night before, I said, every time he tries to go for the third one, that's when things get fucky. And it kept happening in that match. Like, every time he hit that third one, trying to go for that third one, run in. Some comes in. And, the Jimmy one, I was like, okay, Jay cancels each other out. And then when Solo came out, I'm like, all right, who the fuck's gonna? And then Cena came out, you're like, oh shit.
Yep.
And then Rock comes out. And this guy's trying to be like Elvis, because back-to-back nights he's coming out in fucking jumpsuits. Like legit Elvis jumpsuits. He had the black one on Saturday, and then on Sunday night, of course, was the white one. He had the pants too with the sleeve. Oh my God, it's just ridiculous. He looked like he was trying to be Elvis. It was hilarious to me. And there he is. He takes out Cena with one rock bottom, and then you hear the gong. You're like, oh my God. Like, it's I was expecting Bruno Sammartino to somehow make a run in, and he's been dead for 5 years. Like, there's just things. Like, if they could have pulled every trick, if they could have got Hulk Hogan, if he could have, and he wasn't crippled, to somehow make a run in, they would have tried to. I think they would have tried to do the same thing with Austin. They didn't. It didn't happen. The moment of the match for me, one of the poignant moments of the matches, was when Seth Rollins
Came out to Shield.
Came down to the Shield. And then he got dispatched early. Like, you didn't even see him come out. He just got completely dispatched by fucking Roman. Then the match, it's like everybody at that point had kind of canceled each other out. Then it was just down to Roman, and it was down to Cody. And Roman had the chair. Roman had the chair, and he sees Seth getting up. And he hits Seth with the chair in the same manner that Seth hit him a decade ago. And Seth falls exactly like Roman fell 10 years ago. And at that second, and at that moment, I was just like, fuck the overbooking. Because they literally just tied up two stories in like one. It was...
I mean, I would say more.
Yeah, it's like... Because here's Seth taking the bullet and being the shield, the protector for Cody Rhodes to be able to take the championship from Roman. And
exactly what he said he was going to do, too.
Yeah, it's just... And he was also giving Roman that closure.
Yep.
Of like, okay, I'm sorry. Now you have that opportunity. And it's like all this stuff at the end of it where Seth is Iron Man, I guess you could say. He's the one that had to take the bullet.
Yep.
To just, and that was the ending. It was, and then Cody finally, he hit the 2, and then he's hesitant. He's just like, is it really going to happen? Am I really going to hit the third one? And he hits the third one. The cover. 1, 2. And then your body sits there for a second, for half a second. You're like, that hesitation, that third hand coming down instantly goes into slow motion because you're just waiting at that last millisecond for something to happen that's going to, and it didn't. It hit. And immediately euphoria. And then I'm just thinking about it now, and it's just like you're back there.
Yeah.
But moments like last night are the reason why I love this shit.
Yep.
Moments like this is the reason why I'm currently talking about it, why Mac is currently talking about it. Because I want to be able to express to people that when it's done right, it can be one of the best possible forms of entertainment that you could ever want to watch. And once it gets hooks into you, it's hard for you to leave. And also it's hard for you to fully, coming from Mac over here, who was a Laps fan for almost 15, 20 years. And then there was me that was still the outlier, that always still, because trust me, there were some lean years. Whenever the fascinating part about social media is, especially with Facebook, you can go into your memories. And this time of year, I'm always flooded by it. And I'm always looking at my reactions for WrestleMania from that year. And it's like a mixture of anger and depression and apathy. I was just used to the same shit every single year and just being served it and just being like, well, it'll be a nice distraction from my normal everyday life. And I'll watch it and then I'll forget about it because nothing really meaningful happened. And the last couple of years, WrestleMania has been really good. 38, 39 especially were excellent. This one has a kind of I feel like is a culmination of a lot of things. It's everything now after this event is different. Everything. Roman Reigns was the last hand-picked world champion by Vince McMahon. That era is officially over. It's done. We can move on. That's why this weekend, the word of the new era is beginning. Triple H, and especially now that Stephanie McMahon, we didn't talk about that. We didn't touch upon the fact of who opened the show. We saw her on Friday night at the Hall of Fame. She made an appearance, especially she was pretty prevalent wearing the ECW Scully cap from the Invasion in 2001 for Paul Heyman's induction into the Hall of Fame. And she came out night 2. She opened the show. And it was confirmed later on in the presser by Triple H that she is back in the company. So there is now a McMahon working in the company.
It's also
in
confirmed
WWE.
by Triple H in the press conference that he wants to bang his wife that night because, my God. Dude, I don't know if you heard some of the stuff he was saying about Stephanie, but I was like, whoa, Hunter.
Hey, look, after a show
my
like
life
that.
looked good, right? It's like, dude, settle down.
Hey, look. Hey. He's got more than reasons. Literally, he's working his dream job, and he gets to go home to her every night. It's like, fuck it. Why not, right?
Yeah.
20 years ago, I used to say, when Triple H and Stephanie McMahon take this company over, it is going to be awful.
Boy,
I
were you
remember
wrong.
saying that.
Boy, were
I
you
remember
wrong.
saying that. I know. Like, I remember thinking that. And I remember having conversations with people around that because I saw her when she took over the creative team in the early 2000s, and there were some problems. But then I also saw, and I should have seen this, the fact that she was the one that really gave Paul Heyman like a chance because of what he did on SmackDown with the SmackDown 6 and all that stuff. And I look at the story structure and the fact of, but Triple H's reign of terror. Triple H was probably the most competent guy that they could give in the world championship back then, to be quite honest.
Which is why they did it.
Which is why they did it.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it when I was in my 20s because, again,
No, you couldn't. You couldn't.
I
back
was,
then.
because I was dumb and I didn't understand the
No,
business.
no, I
in
don't
that
mean
sense.
just you. I don't mean just you. I just mean in
Right.
general. Like,
No,
if you go back and look now, yeah, but at that time,
you didn't know.
you just wanted anybody else but Triple H.
Yeah, but now you understand why.
But now you understand, yeah, exactly. There was nobody competent enough to lay it on.
And it's like I love Rob Van Dam. Love him. But I understand why they didn't want to put the title on him all those times, because it's just like, well, when he finally did give him the title, he got busted for pot. It's like, yeah, you're right. I get it. I get it now. I understand why. I understand why this guy, you want to give him the title because he's good for your Q rating. Drives me fucking crazy, but I understand why. And I'm looking at everything now, and I'm looking at the landscape, and I'm looking how everything's different. I'm looking how this Mania was booked, and I'm looking how TV is, and I'm looking how everybody in the company is happy, and how the fans are happy. And it's just like, what the fuck's happening here? Like, when did all of a sudden we just wake up and it's just like this company is in a different utopia? It's in a different headspace. It's not what it was. It's not what it ever will be that way again, because they have people in there that actually give a shit about the fan base. They don't books on whims or how they're feeling at the end of the day or who they like and who they don't like because they sneezed in his fucking presence or something like that. We now have somebody in there that's just like, I'm willing to work with anybody, because he proved that last November when fucking CM Punk walked back to the door.
I think that's a mix of him and Nick Khan, not just one or the other.
Right.
And I feel like that's been talked about, but either way, like, we know that to be true. Whether Nick Khan has facilitated it or Triple H, I think all three had to come to that agreement regardless. The one thing I just kind of want to add to this is that I've been saying it for the past couple weeks on this show and in chat with you and I and other people, that Raw in particular has felt fun again. Mm-hmm. Which, having fun at a 3-hour show is, in my opinion, very difficult.
Very.
Because it's a full 3 hours that you have to book for. And I say full because you're probably going to have to be fully doing 3 hours unless they reduce to 2 hours when they go to Netflix.
Right.
In saying that, I want to be specific, because Triple H also said this in his press conference on Sunday when he was like, I just want to have fun. If you guys are having fun, I'm having fun. If you're having fun watching the product, I'm having fun producing it or creating it or whatever the fuck he said. But it's just such a true statement because you can kind of see it. On Friday night, Paul Heyman alluded to it in his Hall of Fame acceptance induction speak, where he's like, I'm a Paul Levesque guy. It's the Triple H era. It's the Paul Levesque era.
Who fucking would have thought that? Paul Heyman and Paul Levesque being able to be buddies under this little thing. It's how?
Yeah, but what we see in TV and in the back is very different, obviously, I'm sure. But you're right to a point.
I always look at it from, because Triple H trained under Killer Kowalski, which is a very old school type.
Oh yeah.
It's just this very old school mentality. And then you have Paul, who, yeah, he respects the traditions, but he's also someone that's just really
But
You
I
know,
think
and he just
recognizes
meanders.
the process. I think they both
Yeah.
recognize that they both have a process, and sometimes that might be similar, and other times it might not. But I think Triple H is one of those guys that can kind of sit back and say, "Okay, I'll try it anyways, and if it works, great." Like he kind of said this last night. He didn't say directly about Paul, but you know, I'm sure some of it's there because Paul has had great ideas. He has been creative. He has run his own company, albeit very poorly, as we all know. But still, you
I'm
know,
not I creatively wise. Well, problem is with ECW was
I don't mean just for ECW in terms of the creation.
Yeah.
Like he's been content creator, or at least a go between with WWE creation at some points. We all know that.
Right.
In saying that, however, though, I want to touch on this too, is that Stephanie came out and said the same thing when she opened Night 2.
Yep.
It's the Paul Levesque era. And Triple H himself is very poo-poo about this, saying like, "Oh, no, it's not my era, it's your era. It's everybody's era." And listen, I sorry to Triple H, but I think the name already stuck. But
it is the Paul Levesque era, and I mean it's interesting too with you. What I got from all this was, and it was also made its rounds on social media this weekend. Of Vince's trainer had posted on social media saying that pretty much that everybody in his life that loved him had abandoned him and all this stuff. And it's just like, well, first of all, shut the fuck up. Second of all, they didn't abandon him. It was just more or less just he broke a lot of, like, his family just, he shattered them. Completely shattered them. If Stephanie McMahon never wanted to show her face in public again or even be in this industry again, I completely understand why.
Nobody would
but she's back. Nobody would have blamed her. But she's back in the public fold because why should she walk away from her grandfather's legacy? And yes, what her father did do that was positive. Why should she walk away from that namesake? Because of the fact that the last McMahon tarnished it. When she can come in, and even though now I think what would really be funny, I don't know if it would be funny, but I'm sure that she might at some point, it'll just be like Stephanie Levesque, which that would really turn the ass of the old man so badly.
God, that'd be great.
But I think, but at the same time, another part of me was thinking this weekend, I'm like, I wonder if he's watching this right now and he just has a gun with a fucking watching the TV and just fucking shoots it at some point. Just like, oh, the Young Bucks picture on fucking TV. Paul, you don't understand. Man, just shoots his TV.
It's funny when they had the picture of him with Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. I was actually thinking about that too. Like, I wonder if Vince either has the gun in his mouth or pointed at the TV. Like, is it in his mouth? Is he just sucking on that thing, or is it like pointed at the TV right now? Like one way or the other. I'm sure Triple H had like 20 missed calls that night. By the way, too.
No, he probably has his number blocked. They probably didn't even fucking talk to him. Like, they're probably just like, we're done with you. It's like, fuck this. Like, fuck this. We put up with it for so long, and now it's just like, no, forget it. That guy is on an island to himself, and he put himself there.
And it's not maybe the island of relevancy, I'll tell you.
No, it's not. It's just the island of fuck you. And you can stay there and just deal with it. His trainer doing that, it's just like, what are you going to get? Sympathy for the fucking guy? You're not going to get sympathy from people. Especially on all weekends. Like, no, fuck you. Like, oh, it's his first WrestleMania with it. Don't care. Don't care. I haven't cared about him in months. Haven't cared about it. Like, months, will count that as years. Second, his first retirement, I was just like, but he still stuck his fucking nose in shit. Last fucking Raw, we talked about it. Like, how he tore up the fucking script at 7:00 p.m. and was just like, we're doing this. And then finally they just said, the people from Endeavor were just like, you can't do that anymore. You're done. Like, you can deal with other shit, but you're not dealing with stuff like that. And
Yeah.
Thankfully, that's over. Like, we're in a new era. We're in a new time where the Triple H isn't going to book on fucking whims or like depending on who he likes at the end of the day. He's going to sit there and come up with an educated decision on stuff. The second guessing with him, like where I sit here and Monday morning quarterback things with him are very rare because to me, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just, he knows what he's doing. I feel like he's extremely competent at his job, so I'm not going to hate on him for that. Like, I have full faith in the guy completely. And I have full faith in Cody Rhodes as Universal Champion. I think he's going to be fucking great. Even though I think they're going to finally drop Universal, it's probably just going to be the WWE Championship at some point.
I think that already kind of started.
They're probably going to also get him a new belt too. So
I don't know. I mean, everything he has said, whether it's kayfabe or not, is he's going to get rid of it for a different belt. But you know, he always says shit like that. You know, he has his own custom made belt, in his office. You know, whether that's that or he's going to bring back the Winged Eagle. He talks about that. So like, who knows? But I mean, I personally don't want them to. Like, they just made this belt. It's not that old, you know. Like, just stop. But they've done it in the past. Steve Austin had the Smoking Skull belt. Rock had the Bull belt. Granted, he has another one now with the People's Championship. Maybe they'll put that in the WWE and, you know, something stupid like that. Like, who knows? But to your point about Triple H and creative, I mean, listen, I knew he could do it. He proved it in NXT, right? He proved that. Vince didn't like it because it was in direct competition with AEW at the time, then they moved it. But that didn't mean that they needed to get rid of Hunter and creative down there. It's just, dude, it's your B League. You know it's your B League. That's okay. You're going to lose to an I don't want to say established company, but to a bigger company at that point.
Bigger company with a more established name.
Correct.
That's
correct. And even though NXT is a WWE brand per se, it was never presented that way. Never.
No.
And if you go to the time that they did have the head-to-head, because AEW needed to move one of their nights, they blew them away. And granted, they stuffed the roster to do so. They stuffed it a lot, but they still did it. If you kept doing that, I don't know. Like, AEW might not be what it is now, but they decided to cut the loss and move NXT to a different night. But that was him. And now with Triple H running the show, though, in terms of both Raw and SmackDown, and to a lesser extent NXT, because let's be real, he is head of creatives, which does have an oversight at least to that, but I think he trusts Sean enough to run it. I think that I'm not worried anymore. And I don't think I really have been since last year. And part of the reason I say that, and we talked about this, I think, off the air, not so much on the air, but we talked about how last year technically still had the remnants of Redacted on that Mania. And obviously, looking at the night after and what he did to that show, that's fair to say. And then obviously the weeks after, where he's still calling in changes after the merger with TKO, like you said. And then Ari Emanuel finally coming down on him and being like, no, you have to stop. You're in charge of something else. Right. He's in charge of creative. That's the guy running creative. You have your job. He has his job. Let him do his job. And God bless, because everything that's been said about Triple H, both by us in the last 2+ hours, by everybody over the weekend, is just 100% true. It's a new era. It's fun to watch again. You want to watch what they're going to do next. Everybody watches the night after Mania to kind of see what's going to happen. Right. And then you have that drop off. Like, Mania's over. You want to see this. You want to see a little bit up to Backlash, and then people start dropping off more and more and more. This is that year where I don't feel that way. Even
No.
even as a like regular fan now, I guess, considering I have to talk about it weekly, like I watch it now, and just the fan in me is excited to watch it again. I don't think I would have said that 2-3 years ago.
No, it's true. I kind of felt a year and a half, 2 years ago, I felt like when Vince got kind of that forced retirement, I'm like, they have a chance to catch fire. It felt different. It felt different because it felt like a new creative direction. I think last year they had really just a killer year with everything. Just everybody was happy. Numbers were way up. But Vince was still kind of lingering.
Right.
He still was there. This is the first full year right now where I can just sit there and say, I'm excited from day one until the end, every year. Like, I don't feel like now that it's like, all right, I can take a couple months off until, because Mania's over. No, I don't feel that way. I feel like now that everything's going to mean something still. I feel like I still have to watch every PLE. Everything is going to have meaning to it. And everything is going to have a uniqueness to it. Why you want to keep watching. You're not going to see the same things twice sometimes. Eventually you are. Of course, they're going to probably have a rematch here or two that you're tired of seeing. But it's not going to be, I think, as persistent as it was in the past, where it's like 3 pay-per-views in a row, the same match. And one guy loses 3 straight times. It's like, I don't think you're going to see that again.
Angle in 2007 Redacted, or Angle and Eddie Guerrero, and all these guys. Yeah. I do want to make one comment real quick before I forget it. And it's something Paul said in a promo, which ironically enough was just on the Hall of Fame, so it's a good quote to use. I'm going to use it a little bit differently in this context, but wrestling does not feel like a dirty word anymore.
No, it doesn't. And also, it proving with Michael Cole last night, how he's just like, I love professional wrestling. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
like,
and to use what McAfee said, professional wrestling is beautiful.
It is. Like that. This is a professional wrestling company. This is what it is. It's not a sports entertainment company. It is a professional wrestling company again. And I think people need to realize that it's no longer this. They, I feel like now, are going to be the more sports-based program than what AEW sold us on as being the more sports-based program. They're going to now do things. They're going to push envelopes, especially when they go to Netflix. WWE on Netflix, for some reason, I just feel like it's going to make everything 10 times bigger. And they're also going to get away with a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be able to push boundaries. Things will be more linear because you're not going to have like commercial breaks and stuff like that. I do have one thing I do have to ask, because it's one thing I pointed out.
Okay.
Were you bothered by the ads in the different matches, like how they had, like every match kind of had like their own sponsor?
No. Okay. So I forget. I thought I was talking to you. I don't remember if it was on the show or not. I don't remember if it was last week. But I said it, and I said, if you don't want to put ads in the ring, yeah, this is what we were talking about. I remember this conversation now. We were talking about it a few weeks ago. We talked about advertising in the ring. And I remember saying it, that I said you should have it on the outside. You already have the graphics and everything built into the cam side of the ring.
Right.
And around that, the barrier. So why not just do it that way? And that's what they did. Okay. Before we touch on Prime and everything, I want to get to that. I thought it was hilarious at first because it was dude wipes of all things.
Yeah, I know.
And I was just like, wow, okay. They had it on the ring posts, they had it on the apron, and they had it on the barrier. All those things I just mentioned.
Right.
I don't hate that. And it's on the screen, too, so it's free freaking advertising. Granted, yeah, you're talking about a PLE, so of course, yeah, but at the same token, it's like, people there see it, number one, and we see it at home. That's why I'm saying it that way. In terms of the Prime logo, dude, one of your wrestlers owns it. So
Yeah.
I can't exactly say it's misplaced. Do I like it? I'm not going to lie, not really. And I don't because it's Prime. If it was anything else, I wouldn't have cared. And I want to say one more thing before I give it back to you, just because you asked the question.
Right.
I didn't hate it on the turnbuckle. However, the only time I really hated it was when Cody kisses the middle of the ring. Because then it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
That was the only time I was just like, dude, just get off the Prime bottle because it makes it look like you're kissing a Prime bottle right now.
Here's my thought process on the advertising. If they wanted to do the advertising in the matches, fine with the way that they're doing it. But this is what I want then. When your rights deal comes up and you want to go the pay-per-view model that UFC does, where you not only have to spend on the ESPN Plus membership, but then you have to pay another extra for the pay-per-view.
Right.
That better not be a fucking option if you're doing this, because this is a fair trade-off of, okay, that's fine. If you want to still charge me $15, $20, like whatever Peacock is for commercial free, fine. But I don't want to pay more than that because you're getting all this ad revenue where they already said that they feel like that WrestleMania is undervalued or some of the PLEs are undervalued. That's fine. But the undervalue better be coming from advertisers. They better not be coming from the consumers, as far as I'm concerned. There's a big difference. And the fact is that wrestling is also very, let's face it, it's low rent. Not saying that in a bad way. But it's always proven to be, well, Meltzer will be like, well, AEW fans are smarter. No, they're not. I've seen them on Twitter. They're not smarter. So don't give me that bullshit.
The one thing I want to interject with here is that we don't know what that's going to look like moving forward, though. Right. So we're talking about 2 nights of WrestleMania where they're doing it, and it's more or less the same ad each time. In addition to that, right, you also have sponsors for X matches, right? So like we talked earlier about LA Knight versus AJ Styles, where LA Knight is a sponsor of Slim Jim at this point because he won matches. Let's be real, that's not the reason, but still, kayfabe is alive, I guess. And that is a sponsor of that match. You have that around the ring at that point. Yeah, the Slim Jim logos and stuff like that. Dude, it's interactive. Like you play ads too, for Christ's sake. Like,
right.
Just saying. But on a move forward, we don't know what that looks like, because to me, WrestleMania, and we've talked about this, like WrestleMania is like the Super Bowl.
It is.
You want to sell ads. You don't get ad space technically, and potentially depending on your Peacock subscription, you might get ads. It depends. I know some people cheap out. I'm raising my hand right now, by the way. That's me. But again, like if you pay the extra, you watch the WWE content during those quote unquote commercial breaks. But on top of that, you can also have it during the matches. And I don't hate that. It's just I want it to be done in a presentable way. And the way they went about it this weekend is exactly what I would want. I don't hate a logo in the middle of the ring. I would rather that than like a million around like the apron, so to speak, right? The apron inside the ring, not the actual apron itself.
Right.
But then it gets busy and it's like, what the fuck? Having a one sponsor, so to speak, per PLE, whether it be Prime, whether it be Slim Jim, would it be whatever, I'm fine with that because that's the sponsor of the show. Granted that it's not Prime here, but that's kind of what I would do moving forward. But it's a tough thing because, again, like we don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe on Raw they have a big N in the middle of the ring for Netflix. You know, maybe they start putting the Peacock logo in for PLEs until that contract is up. Like nobody knows. You know, if they get sponsored by somebody else, like same thing, who knows? It's just we don't know what that looks like. I think, however, as a trial run, especially for a Mania, I thought it was tasteful. I didn't hate it.
I thought so too. Yeah, I didn't hate it. It didn't take away really from anything, in my opinion.
No. As I said, the only weird part for me was Cody kissing the Prime logo 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, that was...
But, like, I get it. It's he's kissing the ring. He's not kissing the logo. I get that.
It's not the logo, it's the ring.
It's just the optics of the situation make it look
agree 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have exhausted everything we can about this weekend. I'm exhausted, number one, from this weekend.
Yeah, me too.
It's just a lot of content to kind of consume, but also be able to kind of celebrate and accept, because, yes, we're in a new era. It's quite obvious. I think we have to kind of give Roman Reigns his flowers for carrying the ball for the last 3.5 years. And I will say that if there's any champion that has been able, like, you can put him in the category of like Steve Austin, of being able to carry this company out of darkness and into light again. I
think without Roman, they don't get through the COVID era the same.
I don't think so either. I feel like Roman has saved that company storyline wise. He was able to get that company more credibility and able to get this company buzz around it. And this is the same guy that almost got booed out of... He got booed out of Philadelphia for winning the Rumble in 2015, and even his cousin came down and endorsed him, and he still got booed out of the fucking building. That's how much go-away nuclear heat this guy had. And
because at the time, nobody wanted him as the character that he was.
No one did.
Listen, like, I was not really watching around that time, but I couldn't really disagree with the fan base either, knowing what I know.
It was very hard to disagree. Yep. And it was the way that was, and to give... I will give Redacted credit, because he knew he was going to be a top star. He just didn't know the presentation and how it was going to be.
Right.
Presentation was completely all off. And Roman had a feeling that this is the way I want to go. And he got the right guy to do it with Paul Heyman to be able to do this. And it worked. And for the last 3.5 years, we have been blessed. And I am honored to say that he was one of the greatest champions in the company's history, without question. Did I like a lot of the fact that he was a part-time champion? It's explained more now, considering the fact that we're finding out now that he is still taking an oral chemotherapy for the rest of his life because of his battle with leukemia.
Right.
And that now I can say, okay, that completely makes sense on he's had to take a reduced schedule. He also wants to be a dad. He doesn't want to be an absentee father, which, again, I get that. Growing up in this business, he had to deal with that as a kid, and I get that, and I understand it. And so for me to kind of, and I feel bad for kind of criticizing his taking a lot of time off as champion.
I don't.
Well,
I'm messing around.
I know. I feel bad because I didn't understand the health complications. I didn't understand the health implications.
We still don't know what those are.
No.
You know, that's why...
we'll never know.
I joke and I say, like, I don't feel bad, but you're right, like, we won't. And Pat McAfee alluded to it on commentary on Saturday. Roman was asked about it Saturday night after in the press conference, and he was like, yeah, I still take oral chemotherapy. But I'm going to say this for Roman Reigns, regardless of any negativity or joking around, he's put in the work, even if it wasn't as consistent as we would want it to be, right? Especially as a champion. We've talked about this. But I think everybody, when we talk about this, we recognize there's a kayfabe to it. I didn't like that he kept having these matches that were interfered upon, and that's how he won. But that's the booking decision. That's the storyline.
Yes.
You're not supposed to like it. You're supposed to hate the guy. He's a heel. But Roman Reigns, the person, I'm just going to say, God bless. Because, dude, if he is still doing that, he looks fucking phenomenal shape. He came out on Saturday, and I was like, dude looks even more jacked up than a couple months ago at the Rumble.
He put in the work. He's put in the work. He's put in the time. He's put in the effort. The man has been an exemplary world champion the last 3.5 years. I cannot say a bad word about him. I cannot say a bad word about this world title reign either, because he literally has taken this company out of the dark ages.
Yep.
You can put him in the same category as the Stone Cold Steve Austin, even John Cena after 2007 with the Chris Benoit situation.
You should have stopped at. You should have stopped at Steve.
No, but I'm just saying.
I know.
You gotta give him his flowers too, because that was an unwinnable position, and they're still just like, we need you to go out there. Yeah, I'll do it. And he was able to get them out of a really dark time. Same thing with Austin with the whole Monday Night War, and the same thing with this of, we didn't know how shit was going to go at the end of 2020, not just because of COVID, but also just because the company was just, you felt like it was in a death spiral. It's just
even right before COVID was that way. They were not selling well.
No, 2019 they were in a bad spot. They were in dire straits at certain points creatively. They were creatively bankrupt. They had really no clear direction on what they were going to do. They had some bright spots where you were like, oh, okay. And then that would get pissed away for some dumb reason. And somehow he came in and just said, all right, fuck it. If we're going to do this, it's going to be my way. And did it have to, he earned the right to be champion for 3.5 years and to carry that load.
Oh,
absolutely. I'm not even mad at it. I'm not even mad about it. I'm done with it. He did his job. The smile on his face last night that was such a cool fucking thing to see. Just, he's being pinned by Cody and he's smiling from ear to ear.
See, a lot of people are saying that he wasn't smiling and it was Cody pushing his face a little bit.
Yeah.
But
that was a clear smile.
Either way, I thought it was a smile too.
Yeah.
When I caught it, I was like, he's fucking smiling.
He's smiling.
And listen, if you want to sit there and say, no, it's how Cody was pushing on his face, I am going to call attention to this, and I saw this on social media, and I saw this being talked about. Cody got watches for WrestleMania. He got the one from Bruce Pritchard, Nick Khan, and Triple H in the back, but he also had custom WrestleMania 40 Rolex made.
Yes.
He said that it was not the only one.
It was for Seth Rollins, too.
No. Probably, but no. Supposedly, there is a picture out there with Roman wearing one of the watches. And Stephanie is throwing stuff at Dan.
I think that means she's going to bed.
Bye.
Good night.
So I
little fish stick.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what it was. And listen, if that's true, which I believe it is, I would not be surprised. I'm sure that they are more or less friendly. Whether they're best friends or not, listen, it's a business. You got to put yourself over too. But
did you know the story with the watch that he got from?
I did.
Pritchard.
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Because I do think that's a great story. But in terms of the custom WrestleMania watches, you're probably right. I bet all 4 of them got one.
Oh, yeah.
I bet The Rock got one. I bet Seth Rollins got one. And I bet Roman got one. Whether or not other people got one, I have no idea. But I wouldn't be surprised just because I feel like that's the type of person that Cody is.
John got one for Flair for WrestleMania 24, I believe. I don't know. I think they may have done something similar for Taker and Michaels, or Taker and Triple H as well.
Yeah. But I think we should touch on that watch real quick. So in the press conference, Cody came out with a gold Rolex looking watch. I don't know the make. I don't remember if he said it or not, but he was asked about.
No, it's a Rolex.
Well, okay. I figured it was. I couldn't remember.
No, it's a Rolex.
Okay. All gold Rolex. So he was asked about it, and he said it was presented to him, as I said, by Bruce Pritchard, Nick Khan, and Triple H. Apparently it was Nick Khan's idea. And he was told that it was the exact same watch that Dusty had to pawn off years and years ago, when I know Cody had mentioned it last year in his promo with Paul Heyman, that he had to pawn the watch to basically keep them fed and keep the electricity on and everything.
Yep.
So they thought it would be really special to get a watch as close to it as they could, obviously, to kind of give him more or less Dusty's watch.
Yeah.
And I can, first of all, just imagine them wanting to do that for Cody, but I can only imagine Cody's actual response to something, some gesture just like that. That one broke me a little bit too, I'm not going to lie. I thought that was a really, really just cool gesture by those three to give him that watch.
What a company now.
Yeah.
Like, just what guy? Like, even there's certain people, certain bitter people, ex-WWE wrestlers that have been burying Bruce Pritchard lately. And it's like, I've always been a Bruce guy. It's obvious that people still think highly of Bruce, considering Cody Rhodes is pretty much saying, if it wasn't for Bruce Pritchard and Nick Khan, I wouldn't be here. CM Punk was actually, when he came back, has been really friendly with Bruce Pritchard, and in fact, even going to his house at one point, like to look at like booking sheets of like Paul Bosch and stuff, because Bruce goes way, way back.
Oh yeah,
way back in the early like days of Houston wrestling and things of that nature. So he's been around this industry for half a century, and he is a wealth of knowledge. He's somebody that I had a chance to meet him. I met him and Eric Bischoff in the same show, because it was like an 83 weeks and something to wrestle with show. Right. Oh, it was so fun. It was at Mohegan Sun. And I got a chance to meet both of them. But Bruce is just an absolute wealth of knowledge. He is somebody that I love to pick his brain for just hours about everything, and not just WWF related stuff. I'd want to talk about like Dallas. I'd want to talk about Houston, all that stuff from like Texas wrestling. But I just look at that gesture and I just think to myself, this is a completely different company than what I grew up with, because they actually care about people. They care about their talent. That was an amazing gesture by them. You know, if that's a company you want to go to work for, man. Like that's just a company now. I think that if you're in this industry, you want to go there, and you're going to want to stay there, because I just feel like that there's no other entity on the world, and for as far as professional wrestling is concerned, than WWE. And they proved that this weekend, and they proved that how they have conducted themselves with the talent, especially with Cody. That was an extremely nice gesture. And the sky's the limit right now for WWE, and just for professional wrestling in general. I really feel like we're at a point where it's like we're on the ground floor, and we're just ready for the rocket to kind of go back going for the industry.
I mean, listen, they keep saying it. They keep saying, you know, in not so many words, maybe I'm not going to use direct quotes, but watch us. Yep. It's like Liv Morgan, watch me. You know, and that's kind of what they keep telling us lately. Keep watching. And as I said, they've made it fun again. They've made it more enjoyable again, and they've made it for those that are already invested, like you and I. They've done that. They've made it more engaging and more watchable than they've ever been.
They really have.
You don't want to say ever, because we did live through the Attitude Era, you and I, but they're...
A lot of that stuff hasn't aged well, my friends.
Well, some of that's true. But they're slowly getting to that point again, I feel like. And I feel like they're very close to getting to it again right now. So
enjoy the ride, folks.
Yeah. like Triple H said, he even said it himself, like The Rock says, enjoy the ride. So I will take the CCO and a member of the board saying that any day of the week, because that typically means good things are ahead.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
All right, my brother, you want to give out your plugs?
Yes. Catch me on Pro Wrestling World Talks podcast on Spotify and on Apple. By the way, John was very happy to be on this platform last week. He really enjoyed himself, so we'll have him back on shortly. As time goes on.
I was going to say today, but I figured that might be too soon for him.
Yes. Well, I was thinking of having him on, but then I think because he wasn't like us and took today off because
okay.
We're next level thinkers sometimes. After a weekend like this, we're just like, yeah, my brain is much.
Yeah, so. I'm in the same boat. I like I said earlier, I really did not sleep very much last night after the show, and just was up doing other things and working on some things, and I just could not sleep. So I was definitely thankful that I had today off, because I think I finally rolled out of bed at like 10. Even though I was up earlier, but I actually got up around 10. I went and got coffee. I got some nachos for lunch because I was like, I need something special after this. Nachos are special for me. And then, just in general, kind of hung out. Watched the eclipse. That was today. So.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was out there for a little bit today with my glasses.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But
yeah.
All right, so for the shoot, you can find us on YouTube, obviously, here as part of the Diamond Podcasting Productions platform channel. You can also find us on Twitter X, on Facebook, and on Instagram. We try to post as much as we can, which still is not nearly that much, but still, check us out. Check out the Undertaker buddy right in front of the camera, I guess.
You're a dead man, Ramsey.
You're a dead man, Ramsey. So yeah, for Diamond Podcasting Productions, we are the shoot. Hope everybody had an enjoyable time watching and listening, and we will catch you next time.
All right.